Hello, everyone, and welcome to our what are we doing? Monster Hunter draft list. This time we got a special guest here. First of all, I'd like to introduce them. Sam, say hello.
Hello.
And of course, we have our usuals: Deadlock,
Hello.
MJ,
Mo.
and Fexic.
Glad to be here.
Because our draft order is in different order, I introduced you guys in draft order aside from Sam, since Sam's our special guest here today. Anyway, so Monster Hunter draft list. Basically, we have very few rules on this one. Same the rules last time though. Snake draft. One pick per. Well, there's no series here, so you can't pick one per series. Uh, Although for the Monster Hunter specific rules, you can pick any monster. Doesn't matter if it's a small monster or large monster, as long as you can fight it in whatever game. Doesn't matter which game, as long as it's in Monster Hunter. Uh, you can do repeat picks. Personally, I wouldn't do that because it make your list worse. But you can do Rathian and Azure Rathian if you want, or Rathalos rather. Uh, but so you can double up if you want. We decided to do it that way instead of piling them all together because some of them are different enough, and if you like one over another or design for one reason or another. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Again, a more detailed rules will be right here on the screen. Look at those.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Get out of here, rules. And I'm gonna do some fancy editing with this one, so it'll be nicer than the last one. That being said, we'll get right to it. I think we're all good here, right?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
believe so.
I see no issue.
All right. Well, then, Delek, it's your turn to start us off this time.
Amatsu.
Oh, it just gets right into it.
If I don't pick Amatsu, I know one of you guys is. And this is probably just like one of the best final bosses we've gotten in a long time. And that's saying something considering they've just been great from point to point to point. But Amatsu is just a special case in my opinion. Calling this guy just a storm dragon would be a disservice to him. He's a freaking walking hurricane category 3 on the best of days. And that's just a brief summary of what this guy is. So much of what I like about it is also just the presentation. It's not just like a storm, it's like a hellscape storm. The skies are like blood red and it's always just downpouring. And despite all of this, he's just casually just swimming through the air, just like this majestic white beast. I don't even understand how it's able to be both majestic and freaking terrifying. It creates like wind cyclones, water lasers, tornadoes, and that's basically does it like its day job. And that's not even the worst of it because all of this is just literally the calm before the freaking storm, where even the music just picks up into more energized as the wind gets faster and faster. So many of the crazy attacks this guy has: wind walls to protect himself, lightning buzzsaws, multiple cyclones just to keep blasting you away. And he's just unrelenting throughout the entire of it when he finally actually gets mad. And that's not even the worst part because, dear God, this guy freaking super moves, like where he just ionizes the entire ground to literally vaporize you in seconds if you just don't flee to the sky above. Or he'll just launch you there personally so he can attack you with even more tornadoes. Oh, and by the way, that's not done because just for shits and giggles, let's give you a freaking rocket-powered dragon to fight this thing. Just for fun. Everything about this fight is just insane. With every attack he can just throw at you as you're just desperately trying to keep on top of it. And when you actually do finally beat it, the sky just like parts away. No longer is this hellscape. It's like one of the most beautiful sunrises you will ever see. Just a bright freaking rainbow just to add on top of it. He's just an endgame monster that anyone would love to have.
I do love how flowy it is, especially in Rise, where it was able to be fully animated. So
Yeah, and I can officially congratulate Deadlock for already putting one of my bench hitters on the team.
Nice job.
I told you.
Deadlock.
I told you. If I didn't pick it, someone was going to.
A round one
What
snipe
I like
already.
is, because I was introduced to this one in Generations, and I seem to vividly recall a certain Amatsu fight in Generations where only one of us had ever fought the fucking thing before. So when it curled up its body to charge a tornado and suck everyone to the center of the map, this one person knew how to avoid it, while the rest of us got triple carded and the hunt ended.
That was funny to see experienced.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder who that person could have been.
Deadlock does
Deadlock.
not like sharing information with us.
I like
No,
to see
he makes
people
you work
experience
for it.
things firsthand.
That is fair, to be honest.
It is fair, but at the same time, fuck you. Oh god. MJ, you've been quiet
Yeah,
over
'cause
there.
And he just that tornado moves
Yeah, no,
so
you guys kind of
casually,
took all of
too.
my. You guys kind of took all the the positive things I was saying about it.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
also
good.
the
It kind
music,
of puts
which
me in mind
again,
of
sorry. Like there's also the music
Yeah.
where it just starts like this like calm, almost trance-like piece before, again, like I said earlier, it just ramps up into a full-blown storm.
oh yeah, and
Like
then
you can tell he's furious at this point.
Don't worry, the music.
and I
will
know
be
you
played.
touched on the design. Like you guys have kind of smacked this down for me before, but it kind of puts me in mind of a seahorse, very similar to like what a leafy sea dragon.
Yeah, that's very similar. It's got a very like kelpy, leafy kind of feel to it with the flow.
Yeah, it's like a seahorse mixed with a eastern dragon.
And
And
like-
it does swim through the air as though it's underwater.
Yeah, because this was also
Yeah.
the generation like where there was a bunch of swimming combat going on. So let's have an elder dragon that just swims through the air, and
Eat
it's
your
just
heart out,
so
sweeties.
awesome. Yeah, it is just so awesome for that.
Honestly,
Uh.
if there was a monster fitting of the Elder Dragon name, I would give it to Amatsu.
I agree.
Honestly,
Definite agree.
he would honestly be Black Dragon category if it wasn't for honestly his lack of black coloration.
Yeah, it's primarily
Because he is
white and, like, a
he is
light
as
green.
lethal as those two that category comes.
Not to mention, the housing complex you can make out of that is really good.
Oh yeah. You could give the Yukon-Los apartment complex down the road a run for its money.
For anyone, which is probably everyone that doesn't get that, because all the monsters are hollow on the inside, we have referred to it as low-income housing for most of the monsters, because you can see inside them after you defeat them. So it's a bit of a running joke.
Especially
with
the ones-
group.
Yeah,
Especially the ones with the larger models.
it's it's mostly a model joke.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that.
Well, that being said, Deadlock opened up very strongly, MJ. So how do you think you're gonna go with your round one here?
Well, he chose an endgame monster, so I gotta choose an endgame monster. It's only fair, right? So
Sure.
I'm going to choose Atul Ka from Generations
Ooh.
Ultimate.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I think it was only
Yeah,
in that
that's a
game
really
so far,
solid
right?
pick.
Yeah, no, it's only in that game, but I love the design, the Egyptian mantis look it has. I love how it, uses its webs to literally hold up the entire arena, throwing eye beams at you like, it, like it's Spider-Man and you're, the Rhino or something.
And
Spider-Man using
Dragonators too.
IVs.
Dragonators too.
Yeah, and Dragonators.
It is definitely.
Well,
like
yeah,
the-
no. It throws fucking eye beams at you, which is hilarious.
It is definitely one of the most unique monsters, just for the fact that, like, no other monster does anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, not
And on
even
top
close.
of that, it then can just build a giant mecha.
Out of a city it abducted.
It is the
It
closest
literally
thing.
just builds a giant Zoid for you to fight. Like, come on.
It is the
think
closest
it's the
thing
most
for us to
unique-
fight a construct so far.
It's the
Mhm.
most unique monster that uses anything related to silk.
Yeah, no, like, it's definitely up there. Like, I was originally going to go for Drusilla, but I feel like this one pulls that idea off way better in a larger fashion. But I still do love Drusilla. But this one is my silk monster preferred. And I totally like to adopt one, just saying, come on, Monster Hunter Stories, let me have it, please. Please.
I would genuinely love to see the moves it would do if it were to do that.
I was pleased with the fact that, like, a monster from the Neopteran family finally got to be, like, endgame status.
I know, right?
Because the thing is, on its own, it's not that terrifying. It's what it does and makes up with its ingenuity that makes it so lethal and terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the more intelligent monsters, honestly.
Easily.
Because it by
Mhm.
itself isn't really, super strong. It's just, oh hey, I'm not strong. I'm gonna use, webs, and I'm gonna build a Gundam. You're gonna have to fight a Gundam.
Green versus bronze, literally.
Yeah, there's imposing via like big power and just being on oversized and intimidating, and then there's the intimidation from just being outsmarted.
Mm-hmm.
Plus,
That,
as
and I
far
can
as
also
desi-
say that its weapons and armor actually do look pretty nice.
They do look
Yeah, they
nice.
are cool. On the topic
Gilded
of looking nice,
gold.
but on the topic of looking nice, Devil's Flower Mantis meets Egyptian Pharaoh. Yes, please.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's very strong.
Give us it back.
A nice round one pick for an endgame monster that isn't an Elder Dragon. Very rare, honestly.
It's always rare to see like these biggest threats that are just not Elder Dragons, but welcome them, you shall.
I think the first time I fought this was me and Chris by ourselves, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a tough fight with just the two of us, but it was a good fight. Well, Sam, this is your first time joining our draft, so
It
I'm very
is.
interested how you're gonna start with us. You're gonna follow up MJ with that.
Yeah, I mean, these two guys are holding some really big hitters, but they're talking about endgame stuff for the beginning of the list. No, if you're gonna start at the beginning, you gotta start at the beginning. So my first pick is the Great Macau. My personal favorite great monster. It's just very unique compared to the other raptors. It uses its tail as like such a unique form of just attacking, traversal, and just posturing as it leans back like a kangaroo and just kicks you, hops around, just smacks it down like a hammer. Just, it's a fun-loving little raptor that just goes around and plays his little kazoo because that music is adorable.
Honestly, it's one of the few monsters I would objectively call cute. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of monsters in Monster Hunter. There's like boss monsters that I would call cute, and that's one of the ones that I would.
It also
Imagine
serves
that
like
equipment looks really nice.
it does, and it plays the very important role I think in pretty much any Monster Hunter game, where it pretty much introduces you to the generation.
And I think it's a good tutorial monster, especially because like it's good because it's one of the easier ones in the fact that like it'll do its little tail attack, and you can knock it down when it's on its tail if you do enough damage or hit the tail enough correctly. Which
That
is
is
good
a
to
nice
show,
touch, yeah.
which is good for some monsters because some monsters do have similar effects where you wound certain parts of the body, they'll collapse. So I think that's a good tutorial in that respect too.
He also has his little pack dancing around to it also.
Yeah. I love also the fact that as a tutorial monster, it doesn't use any gimmicks to try and trip up the player. It's purely just physical and movement. And then as you hit it, as you wear it down, it, like you said, it affects the monster. It can't get on its tail as much. It trips up. It starts, it starts not hopping around as much as it is because you're hurting it. And it's just a great introduction to a really great game that's just a love letter to the series in general.
Respect.
I would not mind seeing the Great Macau again. I'll definitely say that.
All right. Also, and maybe this is me being nostalgic for Try, which is the first one I played. I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of the greats come back. So that one, Jaggy, like
Well, we did
Yeah,
get
just give me
Jaggy
the whole
Rise.
Raptor list. we did.
Here's hoping that Monster Hunter Wilds brings back the entirety of the monster list.
Oh,
that's
God.
asking for a lot, even for
That is
It's
I would-
actually
yeah.
a lot.
ridiculous
But
amount.
I
I
would
would
to take it in DLC packs,
I know,
agree.
but
I would sooner.
at the
like,
same time, I fear that would be asking more than the Pokemon devs for the entire national dex.
I was just about to say it's more feasible to get the entire national dex than it is the entire Monster Hunter catalog in a single game.
Look,
But
I never
then
said it
there's-
was a feasible wish.
Whenever I
Fair
see a
enough.
Macau or any like Generations monster, I am just praying that Great Macau is among them because it's my personal favorite out of all of them, and I love that it's just an easy tutorial monster, and it's one of your first interactions with one of the larger ones.
Well, I think that was a pretty good open. No one would have expected that coming in, honestly. So, I couldn't really it took me a while to narrow things down to the 11 choices I have.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I had 30 things, actually like 40 things I had to narrow down because I just love Monster Hunter monsters. They're so well designed. But I'm just gonna go with one of my favorites and one that's most likely to be picked. I'm gonna go with the Diablos, specifically the Black Diablos. And
Nice.
It's honestly, I could take or leave regular Diablos, Black Diablos, or even Bloodbath, because all of them kind of act the same. But I find the
Bloodbath
Black
is
Diablos is
dangerous.
way more ferocious than the regular one, and Bloodbath I haven't fought enough, so I can't really say too much. So that's why I eliminated that one. But I love the design of the monster. Like it is Triceratops, Rhino. Well, not really. Well, Monopolis is more Rhino, but it had what Rhino characteristics, just angry, and the black coloration on it just looks really nice. Over like the sandy color with the regular one looks nice, but just the black looks so much better to me. And just I feel like every time you're fighting this thing, it is a fight. It is after you. It does not stop if it doesn't have to. Oh, I can't even put too many words to thoughts. Like it is just a straight up fight. It doesn't come with any gimmicks. It is just brutal, and it's an herbivore, so like it's not even a carnivore. It's one of the few ones that's just like, I don't like you specifically, so I'm gonna ruin your day. And I appreciate its attacks are like well done for like usually it's shown as an early game monster, depending on which game, and it's good in the fact that like it's easy enough to get a handle on how to beat, but it can still be a challenge if you slip up here and there. Specifically with like the digging underground, how fast it'll come out of the ground and run at you. Like that can catch a new player off guard, and it's still fun for older players, I think.
I also like the distinction that a Black Diablos is literally just a female Diablos in heat.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's
subspecies tag is a bit of a misnomer.
which is fun, which is a fun idea that it just changes color because it's like, oh, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Time
the,
to
it's
snooze.
the mating season. It has to, it's got to shed like a snake and get those mating season scales.
I do find
But
it
you know,
funny
I
that
absolutely think the Black Diablos is the better of basically all Diablos. It feels like a perfect middle ground between the harder subspecies ones and the base one.
Agreed. Yeah, because base Diablos is too easy. Bloodbath is like Dark Souls kind of booty pounding levels of difficulty. Black Diablos, like you said, it's a nice middle area.
Need to actually fight Bloodbath at some point.
I do enjoy that Diablos just in itself is not so much related to a rhino as it is a bull, especially with the Spanish name and everything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
makes more sense.
And then I like that the female turns black and more bull-like as it gets more aggressive.
Easily the more dangerous of the two.
Yeah, it's almost like the opposite.
Tail.
It's almost like the opposite of what you see in nature, where the males are more vibrant, or the ones putting on some kind of mating display. In this case, it's the females that change, and they seem to be a lot stronger in this state, so they get to go and conceivably have their pick.
Yeah, pretty much every time in Worlds that I can remember, or in just wherever you fight them, and they have a turf war. It's usually shown them that a Black Diablos will outpower a regular Diablos.
Oh, yeah, I think the
Diablos
odds are-
can win on the rare occasion, but yeah, most of the time it is black that wins.
Yeah, the odds are heavily skewed in the female's favor.
Which I think is good just for the display of power that is.
Also, MJ, no.
I don't know what MJ said, but I have a feeling it's something I should not say on...
It's nothing actually too terrible.
Alright, well,
It's MJ being MJ.
it is MJ
Yeah,
being
no, I was just
MJ,
gonna
so-
say that technically the Black Diablos is a muscle mommy, so
Alright, well,
Base.
I was thinking
Kinda
it, I
true.
wasn't gonna say it.
Kind of true.
look, someone has to be someone has to say it at this point.
Alright.
It's going out there and it is getting the snoo.
Chris, so we can get away from this
Sounds good.
conversation, please follow this up, and I'm wondering between one of the two predictions I expect from you.
Well, I'm a fairly easy creature to predict when it comes to Monster Hunter, so my first pick is going to be Mizutsune, introduced in Monster Hunter Generations.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. I just didn't know which version of it you were gonna
Oh.
pick.
well, frankly, I like all the versions, so I'm just going to say which game it was introduced in. So one of the games fated for Mizitsune, also known as the Bubble Fox Wyvern, covers the water corner of its little flagship quartet. I like the design. It draws clear inspiration from the Kitsune yokai of Shinto folklore, which also tightly inspired the name, that being a combination of Mizu for water and Kitsune meaning fox. I like that it sports a hybrid combination of Vulpine, Piscine, and Pseudo-Avian features. It also stands out against other members of its Leviathan family for being the only one with fur. Also cool is that all the, contrary to Black Diablos, all the Mizitsune you encounter in the franchise are male, with their unseen female counterparts alleged to boast duller color schemes and shorter fins. So, similar to how birds act in the real world. In combat, Mizu is probably the only monster other than its Thunder Bubble and Soul Seer counterparts to inflict the bubble status condition. So, unique in the sense that it takes 2 doses to really hinder you, with a single hit only making you look like you scrambled out of a bubble bath to answer the phone or something. But after the second hit, you're slipping and sliding around like a cartoon character that stepped on a bar of soap, and your mobility is impaired until you either dispel the condition or until it runs its course. But giving you the Soapland treatment sans the happy ending isn't the only thing about Mizu that'll keep you on edge, because despite its status as a Leviathan, which are known for being a little slower, if not harder hitting, it's pretty quick on land. And in addition to that, the same bubbles that hinder your movements enhance the Mizu, so this has it sliding across areas in pursuit of you and everything else, launching attacks in a violent dance that's every bit as enthralling to watch as it is threatening to your health bar. Then, of course, there's the gear, no surprise, but, gear you make from this is pretty much about as elegantly Japanese as the monster itself. It's reminiscent of a Kitsune no Yomeri, I think it's called, or a fox wedding. Cool topic in and of itself, but irrelevant. And the weapons are all Japanese-inspired, the ones I use the most often being the sword and shield, which has a Tessen fan for the blade and a bracelet of Juzu beads for the shield, the long sword, which is just a plain, simple Odachi, which is always nice, and the dual blades, which, in addition to being twin wakizashi, get extra love for me from being one of the few dual blade types where the 2 blades are identical in appearance. And then, of course, I feel like this one needs to be stated, the battle music, known as Bewitching Dance, I think, is just a really nice combination of traditional Japanese instruments with a quick-paced, kind of urgent beat, and it's really just makes a really badass backing track that wouldn't be out of place in the Samurai Warriors franchise. So, all that works in tandem, at least to me, to make Mizitsune the best of the Fated 4.
I disagree on that, but Mizitsune is one of the best Leviathans, just in general. There's a few contenders for that title, though.
And also somehow faster than many of the Thunder Dragons, which are usually known for being fast.
Yeah, especially that little spin move it does, where it'll it jumps up, crashes down, and then does that little spin, and then kind of Tokyo drifts a little bit.
Yeah, especially when it's firing its water laser as it just glides along the ground while firing its beam to really trip you up on trying to dodge it.
I was just
The
saying,
fact that it mixes
brutal.
its bubbles not only with its movement, but also with its attacks to help it continue motion and cover more ground with just a simple water jet. Such a good.
maybe it's probably purposely done, but I appreciate that it is literally a slippery monster. It is hard to hit it because it's always just moving around.
Even its rival Zinogre has trouble pinning it down, and it has an element advantage.
And on top of that, it's all the best parts. It's basic. I'm gonna say this: Mizitsune is what everyone wishes Plesioth's fight was.
Well,
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
It does
I
everything
guess-
that Plesioth does, including spray water jets.
Yep.
But it's also got bubbles, and it's adorable.
The only thing it doesn't have is
And it
sleep
doesn't hip
element.
check you.
Yes.
Yes, because for some reason Plesioth has a sleeping bite.
in contrast to
Yeah.
Great Cow being one of the cuter monsters, this is one of the ones I would say is one of the prettier ones.
Very
Definitely.
much so.
And it's also, practical if you can capture one. Soapy water on demand.
Honestly, it's
Also,
true.
there's also its introductory cutscene in Generations Ultimate is just amazing.
You-
And it is in
Uh,
Monster Hunter Stories too.
Well,
I could-
which one in Generations? It's
That's
White
the
one
one where
or-
that's the one where the troop of felines is coming
Oh,
back.
yeah,
It looks
that
like
one, that one.
like they just got done from a little gathering expedition, and they just happen upon Mizu while it's asleep. It wakes up, it circles them in bubbles, and then just lets them go and goes back to sleep because it's tired and they are just not worth the effort.
Well, this is one of your obvious picks that I knew you were gonna pick. Again, and I don't think you can go wrong with any form of Mizutsune, but I didn't know which one you were gonna go with.
Yeah, I'm going OG.
I do have to agree, it is the best of the Fated Four.
Disagreed,
You hurt. Yeah,
but it's definitely a good one.
it is.
I was gonna say if your pick from the Fated Four doesn't make your list, I'm gonna be a little
I'm
disappointed.
gonna say, well, to be fair, all 4 of them are good. Let's be real here. All 4 of them are pretty good.
Yes.
Agreed.
Oh, definitely.
I know which one I would consider the weakest, and it's definitely not Mizutsune by a long shot.
I would also agree. But that being said, Chris, are you gonna go with your second most obvious pick for me?
Indeed. And that pick is gonna be Nargacuga.
Yep, there it is. Which just regular Nargacuga?
Yeah, we'll start base for now. So anybody who's seen any of the Doc's Monster Hunter content where I feature in the supporting cast probably saw this one coming. Known by such nicknames as the Swift Wyvern, the Pouncing Shadow, and the Red Glare in the Darkness, it is a flying wyvern that is more or less a ninja among monsters. Looks like a chimeric cross between a wyvern, a raven, and a black leopard. And it also sports hardened scales on the edges of its wings that act like blades to cut things. In addition, the entire back half of its tail is covered with little quill-like feathers that it can shake like a rattlesnake, launch at a distance, or turn into deadly spikes that Nargacuga can then wield as deadly thagamizers to flatten your hunter like the world's most painful pancake press. Finally, its Red Glare moniker so handily points out Nargacuga's eyes glow when it gets pissed off, and this makes its already cool-looking appearance more menacing, as now when it's jumping all around, its movements are accented by little thin streaks of red trailing from its face. I've, in the past, like between World and most recently Rise, called a fight with a Nargacuga a dance, because similar to Mizutsune, this thing has no problem traversing a lot of zone space in not a lot of time in its quest to intimately acquaint you with the flatbed of a feline drawn card. On top of that, it's constantly leaping from side to side, maneuvering around your hunter, and striking from potential blind spots. And if you've managed to piss it off, these attacks come even faster and are harder to avoid or block. Narga's enraged state can also resist certain items, namely sonic bombs, but these can also be used to make it flinch and immediately trigger its rage mode in the first place. This also opens Nargacuga up to a weakness that it normally doesn't have, though, because in its base state, Narga is able to avoid pitfall traps. It'll leap away before the ground beneath it gives way and make shock traps the only viable way to capture it. But while it's pissed off, it gets tunnel vision, focusing exclusively on the subject of its rage, and it doesn't jump away and can therefore be caught by pitfalls. As far as the gear, I don't think I have ever played a Monster Hunter game that gives you the option to have Nargacuga armor and not used it. Drawing inspiration from popular depictions of Shinobi, the armor focuses predominantly on one thing, that's evasion, with skills geared toward increasing the length of your dodge rolls, the span of your invulnerability window, and even your stamina retention in the Monster Hunter World incarnation. This stuff encourages my favorite playstyle, that being weaving between incoming attacks like an intangible ghost, and striking from the sides and back, just like the Narga tries to do to you. The weapons all look absolutely savage and increase your affinity to boost your chances for critical hits, and the Narga does have its own battle theme, though it doesn't exactly crack my top 10. It does, however, sound like the sort of thing that would play during tense moments in other Capcom IPs, like, I don't know, the Dino Crisis series. But all in all, if you're looking to play like a ninja and really hit the game's imposing endemic life where it hurts, as I do, Narga is the way to go.
We knew you were gonna pick this one. Let's be real. If
It was just a matter of which.
It's no secret. Like I've sported this thing's armor in literally every Monster Hunter game I've ever played where its armor was available.
which is most games, because Narga's in almost everything, because they love
It's a
they love
popular
Nargacuga.
monster.
Now for Ultimate, you had to trade for it.
Right, that's what I said. Almost every.
Like the first one, because I never completed Fry, so 4 Ultimate was actually the first Monster Hunter game that I covered, and that one you had to trade other monster parts to get Nargacuga armor.
Narga's personally not one of my favorites. It is a good monster. I think because we fought it so much, I got tired of seeing it. Because
Which
it
can
is,
And
it
see
is-
that?
it's so jumpy that for a greatsword user, that's not great.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you never did have much fun with it.
It's hard to hit.
As
when it's moving around so
a
much, your
wall
attacks are so slow.
myself, I
Really
really
should.
don't mind it jumping around because I could just let it come to me and just punish it. So
Yeah,
See, I like Nargacuga because it is a murder death fluff, and I need to pet it.
well, we all like
Me.
baby Nargacuga. It's very cute.
Yeah, I was gonna say while
Yeah.
we're talking about that, NCH's video of it with the Nargacuga mom is both heartwarming and
That is-
sad.
Yeah, that video is depressing.
It's
Also,
one of my
when you talk
favorite
about just,
monsters as well.
young one, Zach, I'd adopt a, full-size Nargacuga. It'd be no different than having just a very large cat.
Yes, and some cats would definitely call your face off.
It would still
yeah.
be a good battle mount.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it'd be a
in
phenomenal
Monster Hunter
battle.
Stories.
And honestly, I love Nargacuga. The fact that it's a Black Panther as well as just being a flying wyvern, even if the wings don't come into much usage as they could, it's still a very elegant and striking design. I mean, there's a reason I'm a cat, so I have bias, but also
And you
the
want to know what
fact
to do. And the real cool part is it shares a body type with Tigrex and Barioth of all things.
it's amazing just as a monster in general. And then the fact that the spikes that it throws as well have a slight burst AoE.
Some of them do, yeah, depending on the form and if it's angry or not.
Its wings are also incredibly hard. That they are basically arm blades with the thing.
Yeah. It's like
And in most games, its tail requires, I think, at least white sharpness, or like whatever the penultimate sharpness level
Yeah,
is.
it is
just to
not
cut
an
it
easy
off.
tail to cut off. It is not an easy.
It is one of the harder ones, which for me was a knock. But it's,
Yeah, I think
it's,
the only monster. I think there's only one monster that might have a harder tail to cut off,
oh,
and that's for a bunch of other reasons.
And that's for the Lagombi because it has no tail.
No, it's not that. That's the one I was thinking of. It might come up, but it's not that one.
well, Doc, how you gonna follow that one up? I'm not too sure. But I feel slightly called out, so now I gotta pick it. I gotta go with Astalos, or my preferred name, its Japanese name, Ryzex.
Got prices because it's such a good name.
It's better than Astalos, but I'll go with the English name. It's fine. Everyone in the group, aside from Sam, has known that this is one of my favorites, especially when the Fate of 4 came out. Like it was my thing. The big bug-looking thunder dragon, very thin, very aggressive. It's probably got one of the lesser health pools overall, but because it's one of the faster ones, and the damage is overall higher. Plus the problem with Thunderblight, which is being paralyzed, is one of the worst things you can get. Thank God for Palicos. It just comes in with all the damage it can have. I had to think between this one and its other form, which I forgot what it's even called. So I just went with General Astalos.
Bull Reaver.
Yeah, Soul Reaver, which is a
Yeah.
pretty cool name, but I haven't fought enough to really warrant picking it. Green Lightning 2 on Astalos, like the whole thing, Astalos looks good. Aesthetically, like I just love watching it move. And especially with what they did in Rise, with how it's designed. It's color, like it's more vibrant, and because it's got the better models instead of what it had on the 3DS and the early Switch games. Well, it wasn't in the 3DS, it was on the Switch game. Whatever. Point being, oh no, it was. I'm all over the place right now, but it got more of like a rainbowy color in its wing. I forget what the flapping part of the wing is called, like the
Webbing.
Thank you. But like they gave that more color because they were able to do that with Rise. So it's more like got a Runa Sheath, which goes to a callback of our soldier Saint Nick. What a hero that I was not there for. But yeah, Astalos, I will never not be proud of this thing. Do not get hit by the horn.
It's a very, really pretty insectoid-inspired monster, even if it's not
Oh,
insectoid.
yeah.
An insect that also preys on other insects, because one of its cutscenes also shows it using its electricity to pretty much stun and consume them just without contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And I know
I
you-
like how...
And,
Okay,
and I know you said it was fast. It's not just fast; it's brutal. It comes in and hits like a freaking truck.
Well, that's what I said. It has high attack and high speed.
Well, I've been like there was one instance where I was fighting one in the ancestral steppe, and I left off a higher cliff, hoping to get a mount strike, only to accidentally plummet directly into one of its harder hitting attacks, and it sent me not only back into the air, but with so much interest that I no shit finally stopped when I bounced off the invisible ceiling.
I'd
Wow.
love to see that.
Yeah, this thing hit.
Yeah.
This thing is just fast and hits hard. Like it's basically the glass cannon of the Fated Four.
It really is, and it's kind of like backed up by its status that it imposes Thunderblight as well as Paralysis, which personally doesn't really work in a fight for me. I don't like mechanics that make you not able to play.
Yeah, paralysis stunning you, which is I think it's only really from its tail slam attack before it just lets off an AOE.
But it's one of those-
Thunderblade is also an obnoxious status effect to be afflicted with because
Yeah.
that just makes you more prone to being stunned.
Yeah, and it's just one of those fights where, like, unlike evasive monsters like Nargacuga or Mizitsune, it's one of those monsters that whose attacks don't let you hit it. And it's not really a fun fight for me.
On the topic of attacks, it also does that thing where it uses lightning to artificially extend the length of that horn on its head, like it's pulling some lightning-style jutsu bullshit from Naruto.
I mean, it doesn't just do that; it electrifies all its limbs to just make them even more powerful and deadly. The
Yeah,
wings
but that
can
one's more
do electric.
noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, it also just like extends the length of its tail lasers. It makes its electric shock slams just even more deadly. So much about
Yeah,
it is more potent, and that's not even including Bolt Reaver, where the freaking horn laser can literally just cross half the map, and
The
the
only
fact that it can
thing-
just conjure black holes to just suck you in.
The only thing I don't like about Astalos, because honestly, the gap between Mizitsune and this is really kind of razor thin for me. The only thing I don't like is that the thunder particle effect from the weapons you make from this are the bog standard blue and not green like Astalos' lightning actually is.
Yeah, that's definitely annoying, unless you're using Bolt Reaver's armaments, which do go for blue lightning anyways.
Say what you want.
Yeah,
the
but
real,
green's
the real
just-
ones in the comments will love it. They'll love my pick.
Hey, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying how it's not a personal pick for me.
Yeah, no, I find it a pretty okay monster, but it's definitely not my favorite out of the 4 flagships, mine being Lavinus.
Oh, is that who we're
Mhm.
picking next?
Well, no,
But
'cause
no,
Sam's
it's not my
next.
turn.
Yeah, come on,
Yeah.
Dylan. You had this happen to you in the first video. You want to do something?
I was
something
making
Okay,
a
else?
yeah, I guess
joke.
we're skipping everyone else
I was
to me
making
now.
a joke. God.
Well, because Dilluck is impatient, it's Sam's turn.
Yeah. And, well, we're talking about some really cool monsters right now, and I want to keep that train rolling with Chaotic Gormagala.
Dang it.
I'm sorry, I had to pick it.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. That was my pick too.
Yeah, it's a really good version of both Gormagala and Shigaru Magala, just in that in-between phase where it's just jolted out of its molting state. And it's just in this middle ground where it can't function properly. So it's just angry, furious, confused, and just very tragic as a monster in and of itself. And unfortunately, it's doomed to die anyways, as it cannot go on living like that. It's a really purposefully hideous monster made out of two very, in my opinion, intimidating yet beautiful monsters. And it's just an amazing way to both make the fight harder as well as bring more love to a monster without making a complete variant out of it. Just doing like a stage in the middle that shouldn't be.
truly gotta feel bad for the thing.
This is the only monster I will ever hunt out of pure pity.
I have heard I've heard it referred to as a assault combination because it takes two things that like each taken on their own are either lethal or have one effect, and then you combine it to form something that is completely different.
And that's pretty much what it is.
Yes,
Except it's just
So you've got like the sodium in this case is Gormagala, which on its own looks cool. The chlorine is Shaggy Mag, which on its own looks cool, and then the salt is the Frankensteinian abomination that is Chaotic Gore.
all it is just that a Gormagala that was trying to molt but had its molting process interrupted for one reason or another. Maybe another Shigaru got raised up in the area. Who knows?
No, you know what? We all know what interrupted it. A fucking Conchu ran into it.
Fucking Conchu.
God.
Yeah, a
ruined
Conchu
everything.
stopped the molting. Yeah, a Conchu stopped its molting process, and now it's everyone else's problem.
Can we all,
You-
can we all
to
agree
anyone
on a
who's ever-
dishonorable mention?
Yes, Conchu is the bottom of all monsters.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice,
it
he's
is
on
the
the
it is the bottom, absolute bottom of the Monster Hunter bitch bucket.
Did you say he's not bottom, Deadlock?
No, he is definitely bottom. Don't
Oh,
get
I
me.
thought you said
Do
not.
not,
I had to
do
make
not
sure.
misconstrue.
I was about to out you.
The thing is just like even when you're fighting this thing, you could just tell it's in pain as it's just twitching from its various attacks. And nowhere is that more like apparent than with its one super move, where I don't even think Shigaru does it. We're just in a blast of pure frenzy that is practically like a mini nuke going off, and you could just see like its muscles contracting and writhing in the aftermath of it. Like it shouldn't do this. It's gonna hurt it in the long run, but it just does not care.
Well, it wants
That's
to
why
leave
this
it
is one of the
Either
monsters
it
that-
dies or everything else dies.
And like this is one of the monsters I had to pick, even despite the fact that I've never hunted it myself. It's just such a legendary story for one of my personal favorite monsters ever, and just so sad. See that happen to such an amazing creature that devastates ecosystems, sure, but is a creature nonetheless and deserves to live.
It just at this point though, it just wants and needs to be put out of its misery. If you haven't seen its like
does.
introduction to in Rise, it would be very difficult for you to not feel something for this thing.
It's also particularly tragic when you've seen just the heavenly heights that Shaggy Mag can reach if it were to finish the molting process. Like this thing had that potential ripped away from it by some outside interloper that the game doesn't even bother to name.
That's how tragic it
It's-
is.
I do like it. It's an interesting choice. I would definitely not say it's my highest one, but mostly because I'll be honest, I don't actually like I don't like anything past Gormagala. Just saying.
Cancel him.
Ooh, you know what? Here's a
What?
good one for you. Here's a good one for you, Sam. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that stopped the molting was Gohan's punch to Cell that caused him to regurgitate 18.
Jesus.
Yeah, obviously.
Ugh.
He's
He had
Yeah, I-
everything. He was
I
on the
could
peak
feel
of
that.
being perfect. Yeah, he was on the peak of being perfect, and then some little shit came by and stole it all away.
Bet you it was
So
Deluxe
now
goddamn
I'll
Pal-
just take everything away from you.
Bet you it was Deluxe goddamn Palico.
I hear a story there, but I think that's for someone else to tell.
I don't even
Yeah.
think he was in Generations Ultimate.
It was a Rise.
Well, yeah, he was in Rise, but that has nothing to do with me controlling it.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, the Palico. I thought you were talking about Chaotic. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
he was
no,
in
no.
Generations.
Yeah, no. Chaotic was absolutely in Generations, but let's say, well, him and Shigaru were. I'm not sure about Chaotic.
Okay, MJ, if you didn't feel Gormagala, or Chaotic Gormagala, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to his name. I apologize. If you didn't feel Chaotic Gormagala was that great, what's your pick?
All right, you know what? We've been going, top tier for a little while now. I'm gonna dial it back just a little bit to still a top tier monster. Actual horrific world-ending threat if not dealt with carefully.
I already know what you're gonna pick because you told me the other week.
Dodogama.
Alright.
Dodo Gamma is a truly a monstrous threat that, if not taken care of, carefully, will end the world. And the way that you take care of it is simple. You give him snacks and you give him belly rubs. Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is probably the strongest dragon in all, strongest monster in all of Monster Hunter. But it's also the most adorable. That is where my argument ends. Thank you very much. I'll take my Nobel Peace Prize now.
Is now a bad time to point out that one of these things actually carded me at one point?
No. No.
No. Okay. No.
It's in one of the final zones of World base game, and
so what
it's
it was,
literally a world devourer as it eats rock.
Yeah, and I see this thing, and like I think, okay, cool. You know what's this going to be? Like a new fanged wyvern. It rears up, and its face is just. And I had to set down my controller because I was laughing so hard, temporarily forgetting that World does not have a pause function if you're not in single player mode, and it proceeded to wreck my shit by throwing exploding crystal bits all over me.
You gotta love it when Monster Hunter, because Capcom, they know when to make a joke. And the monster was purposely, because not every monster has to be serious, like they're just animals that are out there, and animals are goofy.
No. Putting that thing in the Elder's Recess, to me, was just like one of the greatest punchlines they've ever told.
Which is funny, because that whole thing is just Elder Dragons, and then this little dude.
Well, it's not even Elder Dragons. Like, it still has like some more late game threats like Uragon and Rathalos. Oh, even Lavasia takes the nap there.
And Brachiodos.
Yeah, Brachiodos too later on.
We don't.
And then you just get this adorable little tubby guy.
I would have liked this guy more if we actually got to fight him earlier on, but by the time you're fighting him, you're going after freaking Elder Dragons.
I think he's
personally. I think all things considered, he appeared exactly when he had to, and Gamma the Hutt is a welcome addition to the World roster.
I like exploding his face.
Indeed.
It's really funny because it just happens out of nowhere most of the time. If you're hitting his face, he'll just explode.
And his armor set doesn't actually look too bad, to be honest.
It doesn't.
It's fine.
Also, and this might be a weird thing for me to cling on, his roar sounds like it would be something that only creatures capable of registering lower frequencies should be able to hear.
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
I mean, I can kind of understand that because it's also like a digger. It tunnels through rock, so I can understand that to an extent.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just like this low-pitched, almost rumble, but then there's this, it's almost like a track laid on top of the roar that sounds like what it actually should be and what it would sound like if your ears were properly evolved to hear it.
Editing me, play the roar.
And I have to agree with Deadlock actually about if you fought it sooner, you'd love it more. But the fact that World just doesn't really have that early lava section really hampers its availability in like earlier parts of the game, as it's stuck in the Elder's Recess where all that lava and very rocky area is just plentiful.
True, by the time you get that point, you're probably not going to make its armor because it's not worth it.
Yeah, because again, you're chasing after like Nergigante at that point, Elder Dragons. Like, why would you be going after it?
Still, that being said, it is a cute monster, and I do love it. But just in the one game it's introduced too late.
I avoid fighting them if they're in a quest that I'm on.
Well, Deadlock, we kind of got a round two that's a bit all over the place. So, what are you gonna go with?
Kind of continuing the Q train with a little bit for one, and actually going to be a little weird and my personal favorite early game tutorial style on Monster. It's actually going to be Yin Kaku.
You got the chicken.
The chicken.
I just love this guy for just like quite a few reasons. Again, he's an early game monster. He's small. He's not as intimidating to actually just like let you settle in with this. Even like going back to like one of the very first games, he's not that much of a threat. But he's still twice your size and spits fireballs at you, so you still got to be a little bit careful about this guy. But the two things I like makes him work for me as a tutorial monster is that a lot of his moves for even a bird wyvern mimic that of like later game threats of like flying wyverns, like for example Rathalos. So even if you haven't fought those monsters yet, you'll recognize their moves from him. So already is he just letting you walk into the later game a little bit, but he's also giving you plenty of practice to use some of your other tools you may have not used. You could use flash bombs to just like knock him out of the sky and get him used to actually creating opens that way. Or because he's got these big freaking ears, hey, maybe let's try some sonic bombs to daze him. He gives you like a lot of ways to try out, like, not necessarily your weapon, but the tools you can have to actually fight many of the monsters. And then there's also his relationship with one of our least favorite monsters, Khonshu.
Yeah.
Not only is I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna say, yeah, he's a hunter's true hero eating the Khonshus.
He's also a bit of a bastard with them too. Because not only is he like a natural predator to Khonshu, Yankaku has also learned to weaponize them and actually pick them up out of the ground and just send them hurling at you to get in your way. Not only that, he'll also occasionally armor himself with them, making your attacks against his various body parts extra annoying. So he takes one of the actual worst monsters that a lot of us hate and actually works with them.
Oh, I forgot about that actually.
Truly, a weapon should surpass Metal Gear.
Honestly, because you can't break through Khonshu's armor no matter what rank your weapon is. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Unless anything short of Mind's Eye, and even then, I'm not sure. Your attack is bouncing off of them. And Yankaku is like an early game monster that is both silly and also shows some intelligence to it. It actually just makes like what would honestly be like a monster not many people would think of, and realize it has a lot more depth going to it, even just for like the monster that just like walks people into the thing. He's just like a good beginner's monster.
The point on working with the Khonshu, it actually, if you're able to kind of play around with it when you get it down to a low enough health area where you can capture it, it makes it all the more rewarding if you wait for a Khonshu to show up and hit the Khonshu into the Kutku, killing it.
That could be funny.
You hit him with the Uno reverse.
Teach that fucker to play with his food.
I completely forgot about that it uses them as armor in certain fights.
I'm not
like
sure if
that.
it actually uses it intentionally, but it's something you'll also notice throughout 4U, where the Khonshu will sometimes latch onto other monsters to actually make your hunting a little more annoying. And Yankaku is like one of the first ones to actually show you that this can happen because, well, it uses them a lot in its fight.
Again, dishonorable mention to Khonshu.
Again. We can
But
only
hey,
hope
he
it
gets,
doesn't
he gets
show-
points because he also feasts off them. So you know what? He's good in my book still.
we can only
Yeah.
hope they don't show up in Wild.
You know,
And I gotta say,
If they do show
Yankaku
up,
is
if
pretty
they-
cute.
Yeah, he is an adorable one. If you've seen his move in the freaking Monster Hunter stories, it's just funny.
Mm-hmm.
It will just eat up a bunch of Khonshu and just be also cute, and then you just bash him in the head like you would Yoshi, and it just spits out a barrages of fireballs.
I do have to say, Yankaku is one of the, despite being one of the cutest monsters in all of Monster Hunter, it's also like the most alpha monster of all time, considering it can get down with a Rathian.
What?
It can. Yeah, in the area fights, it can fuck up Rathian.
That's not what I mean.
No.
I'm talking about Yangaruga.
Oh yeah, it's if you think just like, oh well, Yankaku is cute, but he's just a little too easy for my taste. He also has his psychotic cousin.
No, his son.
I was gonna say, like,
That's what I
Chicken's got some
mean.
Rathian Riz.
He's got some Riz.
Mm,
The
Yeah,
Queen has taken notice.
but yeah,
Wow.
he is just easily my favorite early game monster, hands down, no question.
Yeah, Yangaruga is proof that when Senpai notices Yankuku, Senpai notices hard.
Well, trying to get that mental image out of my head. Della, please go on to your round 3.
Well, you guys already alluded it to earlier because we're going to my pick for the Fated 4, Gameth.
Yeah, I saw that one coming.
I just love this thing, just on a visual level too. Like, Fang Beasts are already one of the most diverse categories when it comes to monsters, and this thing is just in a league of its own as a lumbering mountain that just stands above everything that isn't an Elder Dragon except maybe Akantor and Ukanlos. And then you just have this whole like bright, vibrant fur pattern that she carries. Yeah, by the way, it's a she. They're all she's for some reason. And just look at this thing. The skull plating, the tribal tattoos. This thing looks like it walked out of Shadow of the freaking Colossus. And then it's all just like, all the snow armor it can just put on its leg to protect itself. Its wind attacks to like suck you in and just bash you with. Oh yeah, and because it's like one of the most massive things, it actually throws its weight around so much to where she can just pummel you into the ground. Okay, I'm sorry. Astalos may be like swift and fast, but this thing is slow and hits like a barge. Some of its like crushes and stomps can easily just one-shot you if you're not careful. If not that, either it's plowing snowplow, or just it grabbing you with one of its trunks for one of the deadliest grabs in the series, with maybe only Rajank as a contender, which should go to show you how hard this thing hits. And there's also just a little bit more lore tabs that I like about it, like where it hides its young among Popo packs, which is an adorable image. And then you realize this also puts it as a primary fear for Tigrex, which is a traumatic fear as a child that flips onto its head as a rage when it becomes an adult. These things do not like each other, and this thing is just going to just rip a Tigrex off that's just clawing at her face and just throw it out to the ground like, bitch, please. I just want to see this thing's turf war so bad whenever it just decides to come back into the main series. She just throws her weight around so well that it makes her a threat in her own right, not like, say, Diablos.
You're gonna have to come at me like that.
I know when.
As it looks, I think Gameth would be good in Wilds.
The problem
I know
that
when.
makes her more like difficult to implement is that her sheer size. She's like easily. I wasn't kidding
She
when
is
she
massive.
said she's big. She is huge.
Yeah.
If you thought
'Cause I remember when
Burrow was big,
Iceborne-
she's nothing to this.
When Iceborne was released, I practically heard Deadlock's soul deflate like a poked balloon when Gameth didn't make the cut.
Yeah, it was weird. That was very weird, especially because at that point, well, no, the only other Fated 4 that was in that game was
Was
Glavenus.
recently introduced as
Glavenus,
Glavenus.
However, Iceborne did appease Deadlock by giving him a new moose god to pray to.
Mhm.
Couldn't escape
Honestly,
mentioning
that's not big
Bombero.
of him. I'm honestly not big of him, but he's just silly.
It's just a joke with the people Deadlock.
Yeah, I know. I know. But one more thing I forgot to mention about Gambits is like this tribal, like lumbering feel her theme has. Like it is so pitch perfect for her.
Gameth is honestly one of my favorite fights for the Fatal 4, and being one of the first to introduce you to it is just such a good touch. Like, you get this big imposing monster that's slow and lumbering, but like you said, it hits like a barge. It's really big. It uses snow really well to its advantage in both armor and offense.
I gotta say it's probably my least favorite of the 4, but I do love fighting it just because I feel like I'm hitting a beam, like I'm hitting a sandbag. I'm getting some training in, but the sandbag has hands and will fight back.
Yeah, and of the Fated 4, I wouldn't say it's the worst for me. It's just the least good in my opinion, because none of them are bad by
Oh.
any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, if it's the least favorite of the 4, it's by that definition the worst. But I see what you're saying.
Well, for me, Gameth is the only one whose weapons I will not use, mostly because y'all know I steer away from stuff with negative affinity.
I
Negative
also do.
affinity, and it doesn't have like the greatest sharpness, but has like some of the highest raw damage out of all of them, despite having element as well.
I just can't
Which
get past that
is
negative affinity.
it's hard, but I will say though, I just love its armor, especially its G rank version, where you just feel like a northern king.
That's 3 of the Fated Four mentioned, and we'll wonder if someone will mention the Glavenus. We'll see in a bit. MJ, back to you for your round 3.
All right. So I hinted at it earlier by saying that the Uncut Coup is a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. And so I'm going for a Monster Hunter Muncher that has never canonically appeared in a Monster Hunter game. Gear Rex from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Gear Rex is a bipedal brute wyvern, which is primarily gray, and actually pause right here. Zach, you'll have to cut this out so I can get you guys an image to look at.
Oh, I know what Gear Rex looks
Yeah, I
like.
know what
Is
it
it
looks like, too.
like?
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Still.
I do have to question. Wait, what the fuck is this?
That's Gear Rex.
The fuck? That's Gear Rex.
No, you're thinking Metal Gear Rex. This is Gear Rex.
okay, now I'm confused.
Did Konami do a crossover with Capcom and not tell anybody?
In Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, produced on the PSP, it has an entire Monster Hunter side quest.
It does. That's a thing, because you can fight Rathalos as Snake.
And T-Rex.
Well, shit. Yeah, that counts then.
Yep.
I'll accept it.
You even get invited to the island by Palicos.
We'll consider this a pass, but a pass with an asterisk.
But going back to it, it was created by mutations from nuclear test sites, developing that protruding like thing, which is actually an acidic thrower that throws highly caustic acid over whatever it wants. On top of that, it actually has some mechanics that we'd see later with throwing its spikes and then roaring, causing those spikes to explode like grenades. Along with that, it's only seen on one island, though, called Isle de Monstro, which is off the coast of Costa Rica. But later on, you actually fight it both on the Mother Base, and you also fight it on Costa Rica itself. And it's rumored to have been originally a zombie dinosaur that came back to life and attacked people. On top of other things, though, it runs around with a group of, Jaggy. Generally is a rather hard boss fight, since unlike other boss fights, it's straight up, you can't actually see the boss's, you can see the boss's health, but you can't see the boss's stamina, so if you're trying to non-lethal this thing, you're having to just guess how much more you need. It's very much a Godzilla of the Monster Hunter world, if you will.
Put an asterisk on this
Metal
one.
Gear world.
Yeah.
It's a Monster
very
Hunter
similar.
monster.
And very similar to the boss draft list, you have posed something that I have very little ability to weigh in on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how to weigh in on this thing. Other than this thing reminds me of something from Tremors.
I gotta say, the design is really cool.
Oh
I
yeah,
have
no,
yet to-
it's
I have yet to even touch the Metal Gear series, so this is just so far beyond me.
yeah, no, that's I had to throw at least one wrench in all of your plans.
I'm honestly surprised that it hasn't made its way to the main series at some point. Just
I know,
just for
right?
curiosity.
Honestly, design-wise, sure, I believe that, but honestly, I'm not too surprised.
I mean,
Yeah, the
if you're
extent of
talking
my-
about the backstory the thing has, I can understand why it hasn't.
Like, the extent of my Metal Gear Solid experience has been playing Snake Eater, and I've never seen the Shagohod in Monster Hunter, so...
Unfortunately, that would actually be kind of stupidly fun.
I mean, yeah,
Actually,
we
yeah,
found the
kinda
likes
would.
of Leshin and Behemoth.
But yeah, no, it's it's once again, it is a Monster Hunter monster. It was in that event, that side quest line.
We're putting
actually
an
had
asterisk on this one,
4
and
missions.
the viewers can decide if it counts.
It was at 4 missions on that side quest line.
The viewers decide if it counts. Alright, well...
You
with
can't do this. Just promote me to the council, but not make me a master.
Nice. Good job, nice reference. Well, with that questionable pick, we'll see what the comments have to say about that one later. Sam, please, with your third.
Well, speaking about crossovers, I did not pick one. I instead went with one of my personal favorites again, which is, have you seen Eight-Legged Freaks? That's right, I went with Nursilla.
Good
Choice
choice.
to be a six-legged one.
I had to go with the original spider wyvern. It's just such a fun pick. It's such a fun monster. It's just it hunts Velociprey and wears the skin, and then its variant later on who hunts Kazu. It's just
Breach.
a really cool monster. It uses webs effectively to Spider-Man around. The mandible extension of this creature, like, there's so much about this creature that I don't even know how to talk about it this succinctly. It's just so fun. One of my personal favorites, and the fact that it wears the skin of its prey, that you can break yourself and reveal the white carapace of this spider, is just so fun. And it was unique when itself was first introduced.
So Nursilla is a bit of a...
Yeah, that mandible.
You first.
Yeah, you could just hear it like creaking and breaking as it's trying to release it.
It's so
Yeah, but
good.
like when it does that mandible extension, it takes it from Eight-Legged Freaks to some weird hybrid double feature of Eight-Legged Freaks and teeth. Like, it's fucking horrifying.
It's a bit of a nostalgia pick for me. That was one because I started with Monster Hunter 4, and
Yeah, I basically did.
and it was one of the coolest monsters, and I like spiders, so like as one of the very few spider monsters that are in Monster Hunter, it appeased me.
I'm actually an arachnophobe, but I love fictional spiders. Like, Nursilla is up there with some of my favorite just creatures in all of fiction.
Personally, for me, Rachna Kadaki outranks it as a spider monster.
You see, it's too much of not a spider for me.
It's funny, me and Sam had this exact conversation the other day. Where Rachna's good,
Yeah, 'cause
but it's
Rachna-
leans more monster than a spider.
Yes.
Yeah, because Rachna was based off of I think it's called like a pelican spider or something like that.
Oh.
Like there is actually a spider that has a neck like Rachna does. It's actually very unsettling.
I don't want to know.
I'll
Well,
look it up later.
Did say it was more monstrous.
Yeah,
And Nursilla is probably one of my favorite
90% sure it's
monsters.
called a pelican spider.
Like,
I'll-
I think the best part of Nursilla is, oh man, you got slept, now die.
Yep.
I thought your favorite part in Nursilla was the Gundam-ass looking armor.
Well, that too. I'm an arachnophobe. I still went out of my way in Monster Hunter Stories 2 to recruit one.
It is.
Yeah, I remember during our group playthrough of 4 Ultimate, like that was what I saw you in the most was Nursilla armor.
Mm,
It's just cool. Like it's so just a big spider, but in a way that's good.
And I also have to admit, this is also a nostalgia pick because I started with 4 Ultimate.
I cannot be upset with this pick in the slightest.
No, I think anyone except other arachnophobes who don't like fictional spiders, which I am so sorry.
It is also one of the only ones that gets the web status, because I think it's only that and Rachna. I don't even know if Rachna gets it.
Yeah.
Technically Gogmazus.
Oh yeah.
No, that's Tar.
It's the same effect.
You could make the same.
It's the same
You
effect,
can make a
different
similar
flavor.
argument for.
Snow.
Yeah, no, slightly different.
No. Snow, you can still run around it.
Tomato, tomato. Dalek bean.
Which, by the way, also Gambit does.
Potato, not fire.
Alright, well, I don't think anyone's upset with that pick. I think, if anything, everyone's pretty happy with that pick. So,
Unless you're in a
I guess-
Rectophobe.
unless you're in a Rectophobe, but 2 people in here are, and they're happy with the pick, so...
Yeah, that's true.
I was the one who picked it.
Now we're getting to the harder choices for me. Now it's like, I got the 2 ones that I was like, yes, I need to get these. Now the rest of these are like, damn, who do I gotta pick between? I feel like this one's most likely... I'm gonna go with the one that's most likely to be picked. I'm gonna go with Zinogre.
Good choice.
Yeah, no one said
Based.
anything. I feel like someone was gonna have that on the list, but apparently not. I'm going with base one just because I can't really discern between all 3 of them: Thunderlord, Stygian, and regular. I know there's a few others, but those are like the 3 main ones. But Zinogre is he's just that guy. Like, if it wasn't Rathalos, I feel like Zinogre would be the Monster Hunter monster. Like, he's a big thunder wolf in some pretty cool, like, scale armor. And then he goes Super Saiyan when he's angry. And then he becomes twice as fast, his damage output's a lot higher, and he just gets this cool effects. And certain versions of the fight, when you fight him, he just walks and lightning... He just walks all proud and lightning's going on all around him. Like, he doesn't give a shit about you. And it showed it could keep up with the strongest monsters in some of the cutscenes in World and Rise. So, like, it's always just a powerful monster in lore. And of course, the weapons and armor are never bad. It's just... Honestly, I wish he was the flagship monster over Rathalos. Like, he's so cool, man.
See, Zinogre's one of those monsters that I feel everyone either loves and those who don't think he's over-designed, which, granted, I can see that, but it's still... He's the guy. It's the monster that you think of when thinking of Monster Hunter after Rathalos.
I will say, going off of that, I am not one of those people who thinks he's like not one of the best. Like, he's still an awesome monster. I still don't think he's over designed either. Like, I can understand where you see like his scales and armor plating, but that armor plating also serves a second purpose. Because the reason it gets its whole electrical powers to begin with is because it has a symbiotic relationship.
Thunderbugs.
Yes, Thunderbugs are preyed upon by Gargwa. Guess what preys on Gargwa? Zinogre. So
It's also
basically,
nice
Zinogre's
how-
a walking hive for Thunderbugs to actually give them protection from their natural predators, and give this monster apex power so it rules wherever it goes.
It's also very nice how if you've got a real hankering for Thunderbugs, if you topple a Zinogre, you can run around to its back end, and if you have a bug net on you in older games, you could swat the Zinogre's back with a net and catch a couple of Thunderbugs before it stands back up.
The thing is, too, you can also, even in those older games, you could steal enough bugs from his back to actually power him down.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I forgot about that detail.
Which is also just like, you're attacking his power source. Like, that's an honestly cool way to actually fight back against the monster, other than just like, let's hit him with more damage while he's down.
Yep, and I'm so glad he's never immune to, electrical traps.
I mean, to be fair, you're basically doing what Thor did to Iron Man at that point.
Look, man, I've played some games. Just because you're the god of electricity doesn't mean you're immune to electricity. I'm just saying.
Well, the thing is, though, is that he also works with the Thunderbugs just on a natural basis. The thing that you need to make the shock traps.
Yeah,
Of course,
because
he's going to have resistance to it.
Because as I understand his physiology, Zinogre doesn't have the ability to generate electrical charge on its own. Its body just has the ability to store an electrical charge it gets from something else.
which is the Thunderbugs has a natural relationship with, which again is used to make
Or-
the shock trap. So he has
Or
a
the
natural
shock-
immunity to it already.
Or the shock traps that you use the Thunderbugs to make. It can even get the charge from that.
That would be
Yeah.
funny. I would love to see that.
I think there
Mhm.
have been some cases where it can do that.
I've seen some cases where the shock trap puts Zinogre into his Super Saiyan state.
I need to
Which
see
is
this. I feel like
honestly,
I've never seen that
which
before.
honestly wouldn't surprise me. That's just how it works with them.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, they charge up and then they go Super Saiyan. If you charge them up with the shock trap, you get them closer to that. And in the right situation, you can force them into Super Saiyan, essentially.
I just
Which
love
is
my
never a
Super
good
Saiyan
idea to
Thunderwolf.
do.
He's
You say that, but it's fun.
Well, I mean, he's definitely an awesome monster, but that puts him at his most powerful, which, if you're trying to hunt him, you do not want him to be in.
Maybe
I'm
I
a
do.
solo
Maybe I
hunter,
enjoy the
so-
fight that much.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
do that on purpose.
All right. Well, I feel like I've had the strongest picks here so far, but let's see if Chris can.
Okay.
What'd you say?
Disagree, but okay.
Yeah. Well, he would.
Alright.
Chris,
I've got Adult
fo-
Ka. It's definitely stronger than you.
Chris, follow me up.
Amatsu.
Very well. I feel like your insistence on playing a Fanged Wyvern is best returned in kind, so I'm going to go with Lunagarin from Monster Hunter Rise.
Damn, that's the first one actually taken from my list.
So, wolves occupy a pretty fixed place in my top 10 or my top 5 favorite animals, and there are a handful of members of the Fanged Wyvern family that court similarity with them, most notably Zinogre. But of those, there's only one that is undeniably lupine by design and coldly lycanthropic in execution, and that's Lunagarin. Also known as the Icy Wolf Wyvern or the Moonlight Nocturne, it joins other Sunbreak newcomers such as, Garangal, Malzeno, and Geismagorm in paying homage to European monster stories. In Luna's case, it's a reference to werewolves, and it plays that part extremely well. Normally quadrupedal, it can cover its body in icy armor similar to what we've seen from such monsters as Zamtrios and most recently Velkhana, and it does this by relying on a thermal regulating organ in its body to call on ice powers and keep the intense heat of its muscles in check. But when it gets sufficiently nettled, that organ gets shut off, and it becomes a full moon all night, every night, even when it's not night. And with nothing to keep it cool, Luna adopts a bipedal stance more akin to a werewolf, and its overheated muscles swell as it proceeds to unleash a can of hurt like its Kimbo freaking Slice. Now, in terms of combat, Lunagarin hits hard, it hits fast, and is generally an agile and acrobatic cell block demon in society. It's a little more straightforward than other entries on my list, relying more on speed and brute strength, but its main means of inflicting lasting hindrance come from the Icy Mystic and projected at distance. Not surprisingly, when it goes aggro and sends off its flow of internal coolant, it becomes far more aggressive and savage. Most notably, it takes full advantage of its new bipedal posture by making far more frequent use of its front claws, with longer and more brutal combos. And of course, if waiting for its rage to peter out isn't your cup of dash juice, attacking and breaking its ice armor is just a silver bullet you need to whip Jacob back into his four-legged stance for a while. Lunagarin gear is, to employ the obligatory pun, pretty damn cool. The male version, at least the one that was available to me, looks like something that I think an ice-based Samus Aran would wear, complete with a T-shaped helmet visor, and most of the weapons are sleek and icy in appearance, but my personal favorite, the dual blades, gets a mention for being particularly badass. And the Luna blades look like icy, bloody wolf claws that you slip on like gloves and shred your enemies like you're a Viking teen wolf that watched too much Nightmare on Elm Street. Between the gear, the fight, and the design, if Lunagarin was any cooler, it would have to travel around the kingdom in a ULT freezer.
Yeah, there was a
Also,
reason.
fun fact. It's actually the second most hunted monster in Sunbreak.
Really? Behind
Really?
what? Behind what? I gotta know.
Surprise!
I am
was
not
nobody.
sure, but apparently that's info from one of the last digital events for Sunbreak.
I'm not even
Hmm.
slightly surprised because Lunagarin was such a solid design.
Yeah, it's a solid design. It's a fun fight.
And also, Chris, you missed one other story it actually is based off of.
Did I?
Yeah, well, it huffs and puffs and blows cold air and, breathes
Ah.
in to give itself ice armor. It's three little pigs. It's the big bad wolf.
Does it feed on
It
Bullfango?
feeds on whatever it feels like.
Well, they're not. I don't think there's any pig monsters native to it, unless you count the
I was gonna say, there's
raptor-like
there-
ones.
There's moss swine. I don't know if they pop up there though. I don't think they do.
Not in that area.
Although I will say that is a wasted opportunity to give it a turf war with a pig-based monster. Because we do get we get Bulldrum in Rise? I don't think we did.
No, we did
You
not.
get
No.
Bullfango, but no Bulldrum.
Right. That's a
Which is
shame.
good
They could have at
because
least made it to
Bullfango-
where it eats
Bulldrum
Bullfango.
is one of the most obnoxious monsters to fight.
They're
So
almost
they-
as bad as Kontu.
They
Out
pull the
of-
same thing like with the Zamites and no Zamtrios.
Still, out
Could
of
be
all
worse. It
the
could be
Sunbreak-
apt. It could be apt enough.
Out of all the Sunbreak monsters, I think that was the best of the ones introduced. I'd be fine with if someone said, honestly, any of them aside from Gaia's form.
Guys,
Speaking
wait.
of Colossus,
Yeah, Guys Magorm.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Dude, Guys Magorm is based on the literal fucking devil. It's kind of hard to outdo that.
I just didn't enjoy that fight too much.
Yeah, like the four big stories they focused on was Frankenstein's monster, werewolves, vampires, and fuck-mothering Lucifer.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare, your local cool Walmart, manager to Satan.
And yet people do it all the time.
All right, Chris, you're the first person to snipe a choice off my list. So
Top
He
making
might be
picks,
doing
bro.
it again right now.
he might. It's very possible. It depends on what he picks.
Well, let's find out. Killian,
Just that Rise wasn't really my type of game, and so I didn't really play Sunbreak, even though I know Lunagarn is the first fight you do to just get into the Master Rank.
It's actually not.
Yeah, it's actually one of the later ones.
Well, it's the one that they do some sort of cutscene at the beginning. It's been a while since I played Rise.
He does have his own cutscene, but you're more like you fight Garangolm first.
Mm.
Yeah, he does have
like I
some
said,
context that
Rise
sets
was-
up the
Garangolm-
sets up the plot.
Yeah, Garangolm comes first, and if memory serves, Daimyo Hermitar is your introduction to Master Rank.
You would be correct.
I just not really. It wasn't for me. I didn't really get through any of it.
Hey, fair enough. Not for everybody. That's why we have these draft lists.
Yeah, no. I kind of have to agree. I think World was cooler just because I like, latching onto the monster's face and punching them in the eyeball.
I grew tired of that mechanic real quick. But
I
each their
do
own.
like World before Iceborne
I don't like
Anyways,
because
moving on.
that got stale.
Yes. So moving along,
round 4.
I will kindly bring things back around to a game that Sam has expressed her approval for, and that would be Dalamadura from Monster Hunter 4.
Nice.
I can't.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nick.
I love snakes. I cannot be upset with this.
And they are my favorite animal. So malevolent, menacing, and utterly massive. The one fit to be called the Serpent King Dragon is, I'm sure as all of you know, MH4's online, like the final boss of the online hub missions. It is a Titanic Snake Elder Dragon, and if you wanted more than that, it's a Titanic Snake Elder Dragon that is the largest monster in the main series games, with only one entry in Frontier clocking in larger. One of its
We fought
teeth
wasn't even
is bigger
full
than your
adult.
hunt. The what?
I said the one we fought wasn't even a full adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of its teeth is bigger than your hunter, and its body sports clawed forelimbs like Shenron. But one look at the colossal scythe-like blades running from its head to its tail make it clear that it will not be wishes this dragon grants, but quick and very permanent death. The barbs on its tail can be shaken like a rattlesnake's, and it has two little tiny pelvic spurs, just like real snakes, like where vestigial legs used to be. It's a proficient burrower capable of causing earthquakes and collapsing mountains as it moves through the ground. But Dalamadura is most certainly at its most daunting when it's coiling around the peaks of the spear-tip crag where you fight it, and a first-time hunter isn't entirely sure where the rock spikes end and the Serpent King Dragon begins. To fight a creature so colossal, it helps to channel your inner wander and scale the body of Dalamadur like the spear-tipped crag is the rodeo hill you want to die on. But even if you remain in the shadow of this colossus, you can still get some licks in as it slithers its massive body across the frickin' map. And if you manage to break its horns, you can even get a couple of disrespectful carves off while perched on its head while it's still alive. Dalamadur itself has no shortage of ways to keep hunters on the back foot, though. Its tongue is coated with a nerve agent that'll cause paralysis, which is always fun, and by that I mean frustrating. It can breathe a burning kind of like fire from its mouth, and as its big Elder Dragon How He Do Dat move, it can make like a certain one-winged angel and pull literal meteors from the sky to come crashing down on you and the friends that one would hope you brought with you to help fend this thing off. Now, I personally hopped on Monster Hunter 4 fairly late with you guys, so I only really fought Dalamadur in like 4 Ultimate. It was kind of towards the end of that. Like during that time, I had already wrapped up with my endgame ensemble, and we were busy fighting Gogmazios at the time. But I did like what I saw of Dalamadur's gear. The armor makes you look like a big shot in one of the 7 Rings of Hell, and the weapons all employ some aspect of Dalamadur's menacing look. Where it really comes together for me is in its battle music. So it's got 2, like a lot of big bosses. I think the first is called Those Who Haunt 1,000 Blades, and then once you do sufficient damage, you get Those Who Resist Indignation, was the other one, I think. But you also get a bonus victory jingle when you finally lay still this hulking monstrosity. The music and that alone is worth the price of admission, but watching this thing move across the map like a snake stalking a mouse will send a chill up your spine, fit to remind you why they call this thing a king in the first place.
The scary thing is it has a variant.
It does. It's also very cool that, I don't know if those were just old Dalamadur or if they were members of an ancient species, but the skeletons that make up the Rotting Vale in World.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would like to add, because if you are not familiar with him is fighting for you, you just have to take a look at the Rotten Vale and just realize how big this thing actually was. Hell, its literal skull was just one of the areas of it. The skull alone.
You should explain the fact that the Rotten Vale was basically the rotting carcass of the Dalamadur.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
The upper portion of it, anyway.
Well,
In
no,
fact,
even
it's actually
down
2
lower.
Dalamadurs. Because in the
down
bottom
lower,
half
you
where you fight Valhazak, you get another skull and teeth to drop on them.
Just terrible.
Hell,
That's
you can
right,
also-
that's right.
Hell, even in Odogaren's Nest, you can find some of the meteors that it rained down back at the Spear-Tipped Crag. So
Yep.
its power and influence is still there, to the point where I think it gave rise to Odogaren's subspecies.
So we can blame this thing for being just a menace all around.
I want to fight it again so badly, so I really do hope they bring it. I want to. I kind of have the MJ wish of I want everything in Wilds because I just want to fight these things again.
I want to fight
And
an
especially with
adult.
higher up quality models.
And a higher quality battle, because unfortunately, in my opinion, it just lacks like using its actual full size. Like the only time I've ever felt its like humongousness to it with its actual attacks is either when it goes for like its large bite, which yeah, you can easily lose yourself in it within just one snap of its paw, or it's like gigantic flame twister and swings at you, which are both kind of pathetically easy to dodge, if I'm being honest.
That's the downside of giant monsters on the 3DS.
Yeah, a little bit. I
Still,
think that it's been done before though to actually do better, because again, Gogmazios is a hell of a fight himself.
one of the
It
few
was also cool, in my opinion, that it had 2 separate icons, whether you wanted to hit the front end of it or focus more on its tail.
Yeah,
a few
that is
monsters
one of the
had
more
that.
things. Because the thing is also that you didn't get to mention when it came to its combat, it has its giant chest like beating down at you, but the thing is just radiating so much intense energy that just standing there trying to damage it will see you burned up quickly also.
Yep.
Bring it back for
One of
Wilds.
those it's one of those fights that I haven't done myself, but its legend just permeates out, and like everyone's heard of Dalamadur. That's how
fight
it
Mhm.
is.
The fight itself, I don't think is the greatest because of the limitations of the 3DS. I think if
Yeah, I
it
would
got
definitely
a
love to
full
see it come
console,
back just to.
if it got a full console fight, it would really be a fight.
Yeah, I would
Oh, yeah, it
definitely
would-
come back.
I think if you let it do that, they could make it a cinematic experience fit to Marvel Kul Tiroth and Sapi Jiva.
Yeah, hopefully not like Volcanic Dragon, whatever his name was.
Zor Magdaros,
Zor
I agree.
Magdaros.
Zor Magdaros was not really a fight. It was just fight. It
No,
was
it was like-
destroying a base.
Yeah, Zora Magdaros was more the level itself than it was the actual monster.
Yeah.
So hopefully it wouldn't get that treatment. It would get, an actual fight, but we'll see about that in the future, if it does or does not return.
But I did look into it. Dalamador's still, like, maybe not as wide, but still bigger than Zora Magdaros.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of comes with the territory of being a mountainous snake.
Yeah, that thing is absolutely titanic in scale. And I remember when we first encountered it in 4 Ultimate, you guys didn't tell me anything of, like, what it looked like or what it was.
Sometimes it's just the best way to just let you see it for yourself.
Sometimes when it comes down to size, you need that oh shit moment.
Yeah, but I think Laviente from Frontier is the
Yeah,
only monster, bigger than Dalamador.
And that thing surrounds islands.
Alright, well, moving past that so we don't run on too long, it's back to my turn. And you know what? I haven't picked an Elder Dragon yet. I feel like I gotta get one, right? I gotta get one. So, it was a tough choice between the two forms, but I'm gonna go with Black Veil Valhazak. Oh,
Yes.
yes, you can't go wrong with either form of the zombie dragon, but the intro cutscene you get with Black Veil of it just you're trying to hide from it for a little bit, so it doesn't notice you, and it sees you, and it's just like you were not worth
I'm not
my
even sure if
time.
I'm not even actually sure if it does see you. It just its face is right there, and you're just like, holy shit.
No, I watched the cutscene. Like it acknowledges that you're there. It just doesn't care.
Just has no shit to give about the fact that you exist.
Yeah, it's like all right, what are you gonna do?
I just thought it was like partly blind or something.
Well, yeah, its eyes are covered by the fungi. I forget what I don't know if it's a
Effluvium.
fluvium. Is it a fluvium that's like
Spores. But,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
spores when you start dealing with fungus.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
but it's like its own effluvium variant.
Yeah, so it's just first of all, zombie dragon is cool to begin with. Like its jaw is separate from its tongue, and its tongue has teeth. Like
Yeah, that's called a pharyngeal jaw. Like, eels in the real world have that. It's fucking weird.
yeah, but like
It's horrifying.
it doesn't have like the jaw and the tongue are not connected. Like they are not touching. It's just it's terrifying. And for a Monster Hunter monster, like that's not easy to do because most Monster Hunter monsters are scary conceptually, but design-wise they come off as cool, which Valhazak does too. But Valhazak's like the one thing where if I saw it, I'd be like, oh, I gotta get 1,000 miles away from this thing immediately.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't have to fight this monster to be in danger, just being near it is dangerous. And the fact that like everything it affects everything around it just by existing, which there's a few monsters that do that, mostly Elder Dragons, but there's something disturbing and obviously very painful about the fact that it just absorbs your life energy with the spores. And you can't go wrong with a zombie dragon. Like, and its weapons are pretty cool looking. It's got a really good theme, and I think one of the event fights for it was for Resident Evil, so you get the one Resident Evil 3 song. I think it's Resident Evil 3. So
Yep.
it got the treatment in Worlds, and I really want to see it back because they didn't bring it back in Rise.
Funny
I'd
you
settle for
mention-
either of them personally.
Either one's
Funny
fine.
you
Honestly,
mention-
Valhazak is already a great concept, and it's really hard to bring that back and do it better. But turning Valhazak, the zombie dragon, into a fungal zombie dragon is just the nice touch of realism that it needed to just enhance it so much. And it doesn't put down the original at all.
I also found it cool how it takes the two, I guess, most widely accepted causes for an actual zombie outbreak in popular media today, that being like actual zombification through like some kind of disease, like an effluvium was, and a fungal infection a la The Last of Us with Black Veil's fungal spores.
You can't go wrong with
Speed.
Balhazak.
Yeah, speaking of its effluvium, it's also a unique status condition where it cuts your maximum HP down to size the more you get afflicted with it. And then its move just like hits you no matter where you are if you are afflicted.
Which,
Mhm.
admittedly, is kind of bullshit, but you know what? When it comes to an Elder Dragon, they should be a little bullshit, because they are Elder
Well,
Dragons.
That's the sort of thing where you just make some space in your equipment loadout for like 3 points of effluvium resistance, so you don't have to deal with it at all.
And just for more just shits and giggles on it, going back to that Resident Evil event, if you actually get afflicted with it there, it zombifies you.
That's
And you
right, I
just
forgot
cannot
about
do
that.
that.
I forgot
You
about
can
that.
barely sprint and you just roll. You just cannot dodge roll at all.
hmm That was a really nice touch.
Capcom is fun with stuff like that.
Yeah, that was just like a cool way to just give the zombie dragon the ability to zombify you.
Yeah, that being said, in terms of the fight itself, it's one of the more straightforward of the Elder Dragons.
Yeah, it's not the most chaotic one. It's mostly just about avoiding its wide attacks and as well as being very wary of its afflictions it can cause.
Obviously,
Yeah, I've
can-
noticed, and like this is particularly true with normal Valhazak, but it applies to Black Veil as well. If you stay just behind the forelimbs while executing your attacks and try your best to keep yourself there, you are largely safe from most of what it can do.
Assuming it doesn't just charge, yeah.
which it makes sense for an undead dragon. It shouldn't be the most mobile thing in the world.
hmm
Also, I know this was for Black Veil specifically, but just watching the original, just as you approach a Slayer, just rise out of the like bones of all the bodies that are just on top of it and just burst out.
Yeah, it was disturbing.
Oh yeah, just emerging from the rot.
Like I said,
It's
both were
such
good.
really creepy.
I ultimately went with Black Veil just because that intro was a little bit stronger for me, but you really can't
Yeah,
go
it's
wrong with
just
either.
Yeah, Black Veil is just that little extra more.
Commentary is a bit short on this one, but that's fine. We'll go on to Sam's fourth pick.
I mean, we got two really good Elder Dragons back to back. I don't see why we should stop that train. So I'm gonna go with another really cool Elder Dragon with nice lore, Shara Ishvalda. It's
Not bad at all.
It's a
Interesting
really
choice.
cool and just massive Elder Dragon and endgame fight that just you really don't see it coming when you first arrive there. You get into this arena type area and then you watch as this giant rock monster comes out of the ground and starts trying to clobber you with giant rocks, as one does. And the more you whittle it down slowly, the more not only its armor goes away, but also the arena chips away. And once you finally once you damage it enough to actually make it get rid of its rock armor and reveal its true form, it also just not only blows its own rock armor away, but blows the arena out of proportion and just shows a vast open area that it just can control with its very creepy eyes that stare at you, the player, not you, not your hunter, you, the player, as well as its tendril hand-like wings that just shoot very pressurized bursts of air, and also just affecting the sand around you, making pits that make it hard to move. And if you're caught in them, by the time it releases its powerful, essentially it's a spirit bomb, you just get blasted back even if you're not hit by the spirit bomb itself. It's just a really cool fight and a really way to end Iceborne.
I forgot how good of a fight that was. I forgot about the spirit bomb. I forgot about the sand pits. I totally forgot about the psychological warfare it plays on you by staring at you the whole time.
Yup.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
was
actually.
creepy.
So it doesn't actually stare at you. The reason why it looks like that is because their eyes are concave and motionless.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, like the whole point is like go back to like a almost sense of otherworldliness. Like you ascended to another plane of awareness. That's kind of what they're going for with those eyes, because
Well, yeah,
A
because
lot
the
of it
whole
goes back
thing
to
is,
Buddhism.
yeah, it's based on the samsara, the wheel of rebirth and reincarnation.
And just going
It's-
back to like the whole rock stuff that I was doing, yes, you're chipping away at the rocks, but the ground isn't necessarily sand. It's just earth, dirt. He's just able to just
Yeah, but
like
it's-
use all of his like sonic abilities to like either bring up rock columns or just refine it down into sand that just reacts violently to further sonic agitation that it does.
Yeah, fuck your badger mole. Shara Isvalda is the original Earthbender.
And the fact that it's not actually an earthbender, it's an airbender.
It's more like no, yeah, that's true.
100%,
It
100%
fakes
right.
being
That
an-
spear bomb is air. It's condensed air.
It
just
fakes being an
it's just
earthbender
sonic
by being a
pressure
really
waves.
good airbender.
It is also one of just, at least in design, is one of the creepiest looking things.
Oh, absolutely. All
Very-
spindly,
it's like,
and
you
fleshy
know,
looking.
Look away.
It's like a skinned cat gets crossed with a xenomorph.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. That is uncomfortably accurate.
Which that somehow has a lotus flower motif put in.
That too, it does have that weird color scheme of like yellows and pinks, which is usually seen as bright and friendly. In this case, you do not want to be anywhere near that thing.
It's
Not to mention
Also,
that
can we-
like when you break it, sorry. When you break it, it actually like reveals purple like amethysts under it, which is like really
Also,
pretty.
can we, speaking of breaking things, can we talk about how even if you're trying to accomplish it, breaking that fucking thing's head in phase 2 is a huge pain.
It is a tall order. You have to be devoting so much effort to crack that thing off.
I've
Yeah,
been
like
running
you
it.
basically need every hunter that's in your little death squad there to all be focusing on it at once.
Which is easier said than done when a lot of its Sonic-based attacks are right next to it.
That reminds
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Doesn't it have like a condensed sound beam? Like, that
Yes,
just-
Yeah.
yes, it does. It has a
That's what-
freaking gigantic sound wave cannon that just obliterates so much rock, including the
Yeah,
rock faces.
it's
Including
got a
like, the rock
Theerbone and a
faces.
Kamehameha.
Jesus.
You
Yeah,
could say that it
Even
is
Death
firing.
Beam.
You could say that it is firing the dubstep cannon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it has death beams. I forgot all about that.
That's what I was trying to tell you about with the hand tendrils just shooting condensed bolts of air.
Either just
But,
like in like a raking motion or just like in various individual blasts just randomly skewed about.
It is.
You
Oh.
there's rarely any ground that you can go to that you can ever feel safe.
Along with the
Also,
Delver,
can we
that's
talk
one
about
of the strongest
the-
endgame monsters.
Not
Yeah,
to mention
also,
that
can we
it's
talk
one of the
about how,
only
like-
ones that the Gilly Mantle cannot hide you from.
Nope.
Yep.
It's fully aware of the tremor with the tremor sense.
The only time that you can actually use that and be safe is you put it on before entering the arena.
I mean,
But you know what mantle it does help with? The one that lets you wade through water, mud, and sand without your movement being encumbered.
That's one of them. The
Only
other
two
one-
times that is useful.
Hey, but it's useful in the final boss fight.
Chekhov's gun was there.
yeah.
And it was
You
loaded.
laughed when they gave you the option after Jurototis. Who's laughing now?
Also, I love the fact that the Gilly Mantle doesn't work because it's the image of it staring at the player. So it's like, I don't care about your hunter. I'm looking at you. You cannot hide.
I always
See,
chalk
you
that up to it being like Top Beifong, where it could feel the vibrations of your movement through the ground.
Honestly,
that's
you could
probably what
flavor
it
it
is.
as either way. Either way, it knows you're there and you're not hiding from it.
Yep.
Not even a little bit.
Good job, Sam. That is. Can't go wrong with Charizvalda. I completely forgot about
I
all that
surprised
stuff.
myself with that pick as well, honestly.
All right, MJ. Let's see what you're gonna follow up. You gonna bring us another Elder
Yep.
Dragon? Or you gonna ruin the flow?
So we've gotten 3 Elder Dragons. It only makes sure that I post something on par with them.
Oh no.
And truly, I think this next one I'm going to post is right up there. It actually comes from the same area as Valhazak and commands a mighty army of its own that follow
Alright.
it. It is Great Gyros. I really like Great Gyros. I think
Oh, it's gonna be
cool
on my
little-
list!
I have stolen it.
It always feels good when you
Let me-
snipe from someone, doesn't it?
Yes. But no, I absolutely love Great Gyros. It's a snake cat. Nick cat. Come on. adorable. It's got a cool little gang of dudes. It's like a little Yakuza guy running around going, break their kneecaps.
And he will with other paralytic bites.
And the fact that it
Not to
plays
mention,
into
if he
the-
gets you just too low in those influvium areas, you just die.
Yep.
Oh man, I got paralyzed down here, and my health bar is ticking down. Oh no.
Also, the fact that it plays along with the theme of King Cobra
Mm-hmm.
with the hood.
You know what?
And I
Yeah,
also
really
like
well.
its I also really like its equipment because it has the almost like a witch doctor look, a witch
Yeah,
doctor
yeah.
cowboy look for the males.
Yeah, like a plague doctor.
And then the other one is then for the females you get like what I assume would be the crossover between Blade, the Matrix, and a werewolf, and like the Underworld. If all of those series just had a uniform that's smashed together.
Sounds like it's a trench coat.
No, it's not a trench coat.
I mean,
but
more like a.
it's
I
got
don't-
the fanged mask and stuff.
I haven't seen it, so I don't
Yeah.
remember. But
Yeah,
There you go, I
Editing
just
me, put
posted
it on
for you.
screen.
Yeah, there you go. I gave it to you, editing me. Put it up. Or editing you. And then the alpha armor just like goes full Resident Evil.
Which we're always okay with.
Yeah, no, like
Mhm.
you get, one which is like long, like trench coat almost kind of looking thing with a hood. Kind of reminds me of, the salesman. And the other one and then the female one gives me, the idea of like, I guess not Resident Evil, but more like a cowboy who accidentally fell into a snake pit.
Okay.
as they do.
You know my favorite thing
But-
about Great Gyros?
No.
It's the introduction scene with the City Glavinus where it gets fucked up by it.
Look, man, he may not be, the strongest monster, but I would still pet it.
You
I
know,
went
one of
right into
the.
battle.
You know,
Mhm.
another thing that the Gyros has under its belt that not a lot of monsters do.
Oh.
It's one of the few that almost, keyword being almost, did all of us the favor of eating the fucking handler.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
Only it
close.
An honor it shares with Devil Joe and no one else.
Not to mention that it's not actually like, well, it's predatory, but it's mostly a scavenger. Like we see it going after,
I mean, you kind
Yeah,
of
like-
have to be in that area.
True.
well, like it goes hunting ZZ Yakuza.
Oh, the Tootsie Yakuza.
Yeah, it goes hunting with them, and on top of that, it has a great boss fight in which you fight its little minions, Great Jagras, and Dodogama at the same time.
Oh yeah, it does have that.
So you get the powerhouse trio of we're the low tier monsters of our area, but we're about to run you for your foams.
Yeah.
I do like the Great Gyros. It didn't get much time, but it's there.
It's super adorable.
It got more time than Dodogama.
it did actually because it comes in fairly early.
And on top of that, it's basically almost always there.
Pretty much. I can't
Yeah.
think of any time where it doesn't really show up at least once on a hunt.
There's a couple where they
It
replace it with the Radabon, but
Well, it becomes more prevalent when you get into Iceborne, and there's a lot more competition in the area, like Tigrex, Glavinus.
not to mention though that speaking of Radabon, Great Gyros can paralyze that. Great Gyros has punching power well above its weight.
Yeah, it does. I know it can paralyze pretty much anything it can that it can get its teeth on.
And on top of that, if you actually take out its hood, because that's the cool mechanic that it has is if you take out its hood and damage its head, it actually loses the ability to command or call other Gyros.
It lost its crown.
A
It's no
nice-
longer.
A nice little detail. But
I always like seeing that monsters when you actually break parts that actually punish their abilities.
well, it is nice, and we could continue this on further. We only have so much time in the day, so Deadlock, hit us with round 4.
I'm honestly a little sad that not many of mine got picked. I'm honestly surprised that Sam was the only one to pick one of mine.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm surprised Zenogre wasn't one of yours. I'm surprised no one else had Zenogre, to be honest.
Well, if we're going to talk about Zenogre, then I guess I'll bring in my electrical pick of Legia Chris.
That was the obvious one.
Yeah, we knew.
Yeah,
this
I
one.
saw
We-
that coming.
We let's be honest. None of us would have felt right if we took this one from you.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I was about to put it on my list, but then I had other choices.
Well, I stole one from you, so
Yeah.
One of the things I just like about it is also how it just compares to Rathalos, the mascot of the entire series. These two are just like rivals that just never clash, but both are rulers of just like their respective territories, but could also just beat each other if they ever needed to clash. Rathalos being like ruler of the skies, weak to lightning, uses fire. Like Eocris, just Lord of the Seas, weak to fire, uses light. It's just like a little nice dynamic the two have there, even if they just never clash with each other. But what I like about him is that even though he's like home of the seas and he's definitely very deadly down there if you fought him and try, going into Generations, he can still be imposing on land just with his like quite large stature for like such a serpentine beast. Because we talked about Mizutsune earlier, this guy is easily bigger than Mizutsune while having an elemental advantage. Just so much about him just like works out well with him. Like even though he's like big and again you would think he's slow, he actually can waddle pretty fast on the land and even just like slide across the ground quickly, not as elegantly as Mizutsune, but still pretty fast, and even can charge up with like a bunch of punishing electrical attacks as well. Because when he starts charging up his famous shell shockers, things start getting a little more deadly. All of his like ram attacks have electric charges. He can just start scattering electric blasts all over the place. And then there's this just discharge, which is like one of the most beautiful attacks I've seen from most monsters, where just like I can't help but just like looking at it as anything than just like a blooming power of electrical pulses. Every time I just see it and I'm just a distance away because staying near that is like a death wish, I just a little awed about it every time. And he's not just an Elder Dragon, he's just a normal Apex monster. It feels weird just like see him like as just like this third generation monster, and yet even for their first attempt at Leviathans, they did so well with him. Shoutouts to also his theme for the Deserted Isles, which just stuck with him, as well as that bell ring roar that just sticks out from so many other monsters. I just every time I hear it, like every time I hear this roar, it just brings back so much classic memories for me when going back into the series again. I just love this guy so much.
Honestly, Lagiacrus is one of those monsters that I have to agree, but it's like Rathalos, if it's left out of a game, I feel like the game's missing a big piece.
And for a while, our homie is lost and we don't know where he is. If you see him, call this number.
He's lost at sea. Save him.
Hey.
I think the real insulting part of that is he was in the world like E3 showcase,
and he just never made it in. Not here, not in Rise. I am going to cry if he doesn't make it into Wilds.
Capcom,
Deadlock, if it'll make you feel better, I will play Generations with you later.
I want to play Generations again.
I want to bring back swimming because I really want to fight Abyssal Lagiacrus. I've been wanting that for a while.
Yeah.
I feel like in this day and age, we could definitely get swimming mechanics that work.
Yes.
I would love to see it come back and actually just work properly, because Lagiacrus needs to come back. He deserves it more than any other monster to just make a return. Even Gameth, as much as I love her.
We miss you, Lagiacrus. Come home.
Everyone misses you.
But I cannot be upset with this pick because it's fun to fight, and honestly, at least in the old, because it hasn't gotten a modern version of Lagiacrus, fighting it in the older games was fun because breaking it was really easy to do and very visual on it. Especially because if you broke its chest, it had a big scar on its chest, and I will always remember that design.
Oh yeah, it basically looks like Luffy post time skip if you break the chest.
Such a good flavor.
Yes, you could break its back, you could break its head, cut off its actually pretty good tail also to really limit its tail attacks, because it actually uses them quite a bit. It is like my favorite monster whenever it comes to electrical power. And that's no knock on Zinogre or Ostelos. Those are cool monsters in their own right. But Lagiacrus has just always got to be my favorite in this archetype.
Honestly, I feel like we have a good trio with Zinogre being the thunder of the ground, Astalos being the thunder of the sky, and Lagiacrus being the thunder of the sea.
Yeah, actually.
It's a good way to look at it.
You know what I'm noticing real quick? Oh, never mind. I was gonna say we don't really have any fire monsters, but we have Yu and Kutku, but that's about it.
Interesting.
Yes,
Oh, don't worry. My next pick is going to be a fire monster.
Well, before we get to that, here are some honorable mentions for you, the viewers. Things that just didn't quite make the cut here. Well, mentions. Who is your final pick that will solidify your list?
I'll be honest, I could have gone with like one of those fights I just love dancing to in Elatreon, but I think I have to go with World War II in here.
Son of a bitch! Did you just snipe my pick?
No, that's amazing.
Oh, yes, I get to take one from you now because this is Betelgeuse.
You mother.
E52 bomber.
God damn! Did you? Which
I
one did you go
warned
with?
you my pick was going to be a fire monster.
Are you going with regular or seething at least?
Regular, actually, in this case.
I feel disrespected.
I'm
know-
sorry, but like literally just the introduction to him in World is like one of the best you can get without a cutscene. He all of a sudden you're just hunting like small time monsters. You hear a roar, his music just starts playing. It's like, what is going on? And then just crash, boom, bang. He comes in and his music just goes into full force. This dramatic bastard that he is. I just could just talk about how often he brute forces many of the like brute wyverns, like he can actually beat out most of them, or even his numerous exploding scales that just get him the affectionate B-52 wyvern, or even just how some of his armor is just my favorite, both in looks and just how it just performs with my favorite Gunland. But if I'm being honest, it's his personality that just really gets. This guy is just a carrion wyvern, but you can just tell he's just such a show-off who loves to be in the spotlight. The kind of guy who would just take your kills and brag about it to you. And unlike the two other invaders who are just proactive in their hunt, you can just tell this guy is more opportunistic in his approach on how he just loves to crash your party. And this behavior just also extends into his turf wars, where like while he gets good damage against like the likes of Devil Joe and Rajang, let's be real here, he's just getting his ass handed to him by those two. He's somehow both the big bad and the underdog. He's just a unique monster with a striking, pitch-perfect theme, so much personality that I just can't help but fall in love with this guy.
I feel like I've been stabbed in the back with this twice over.
I like-
Not only did you stole Basil Geese, I prefer Seething, because the explosions from his pine cones are so beautiful, because they turn into like flowers right before they explode.
I just prefer the crisp sound of his original blast, though his seething version is easily more lethal, especially if you fight him in Rise.
I do have to
I
agree with
remember-
Deadlock, actually, considering being one of the invader monsters alongside Devil Joe. Like, Devil Joe has the whole intimidating factor, but when Basil Geese comes in, you know he's there.
I actually, for the original fight with him, I actually had to take a bow in World because dual blades, come to find out, are counterintuitive to something that drops explosive pine cones whenever you hit it.
But Beyblade.
Doesn't matter when he literally
yeah.
can just charge you and break you off his back, as well as just leave so many explosives littering the ground. Some are duds just waiting to be ignited, and he just blasts
and
you up.
unfortunately, especially when you're halfway through a like a demon combo, you can't turn that off. So if Basil decides he wants to drop half a dozen splody pine cones around you, your combo is going to trigger those splody pine cones, and now half your health bar is gone. So I had to take up something a little longer range to keep my ass alive in that fight.
World was a good time for ranged weapons.
It was a
Indeed.
good time for them.
It was.
But god damn it, Deadlock.
And funnily enough, AJ actually hated the light bow gun in that game.
I was very happy with
Light
the
bowgun
heavy
was like
bowgun.
one of the best weapons in that game.
It was the first time I actually tried the bowguns, and I enjoyed both of them.
Same.
Yeah, heavy bowgun was my favorite, especially when you could just go tank gun with it.
Between that and
Yeah,
Charlie,
AJ was light bowgun for a really long time, but World is actually what forced her into insect glaive and switch axe.
No, remember, that's when I had to switch off of Greatsword because it just felt too slow for me. But that was also a new system going from the older games, so it took some getting used to.
It sometimes is about getting used to new things.
Alright.
We tried Flash.
MJ, go into round 5 because Deadlock pissed me off by stealing my pick.
Alright, well, okay, I kind of cheated for this one, okay, guys?
Oh god, here we go again.
What? No. This is still an actual Monster Hunter monster. It's not from a different game that's not, titled Monster Hunter. It's just a pairing because they're basically never not together. And
I
we're
think I
gonna
know where
start
you're going with
dancing all
this.
night
Do it.
with Celtis Queen and King.
Yes!
I cannot be upset about this because it was one of my contenders for a bit.
Same.
Celtis Queen
Definitely.
and the regular Celtis, come on. They're like the best power couple in Monster Hunter. There's no better team up. Like you have, sure, you have, Gyros and, great Gyros, you have those, but those are like big bro, little bro. This is power
Here's from
couple.
the Nostra.
Well, okay, they're rarely actually put together.
It's true.
Yeah, thankfully.
And they don't necessarily work together except for their one move they get. Where it's
On top of that, they're both terrible fights. Anyway.
MJ, I hard agree. I hate Teostra and Lunastra.
Like, meanwhile, Celtis Queen and the Celtis, they're always working together. The Celtis is there to carry his queen everywhere she needs to go. Be food, be ammunition for, an ICBM tactical strike. Like, all the while the queen and them are, combining together to form, Gurren Lagann. Like, what else is there to say? It's two bugs becoming a bigger bug mecha.
It's also completely fair to put them together because you literally cannot fight Celtis Queen without a Celtis being there.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
if you
there's
kill one will come
one
back.
time-
It takes time.
No,
I think
she will
there's
even
one
dig one
time
up from sleeping in the ground.
for you when you first fight Celtis Queen that there's no Celtis. I think there's one case.
Actually,
I actually don't think there is.
I don't think there is either, because even in the introductory cutscene, you just see a Celtis flying around. It flies off to this low cliffside, and then all of a sudden it gets grabbed out of nowhere, and that's your introduction to how this fight is gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the Celtis play such an integral role in all of the Queen's attacks, I think it's just coded to where whenever you get the Queen, there's gonna be a drone somewhere in the area.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it
Not
may
to
take a while
mention
to
that,
call them over, but they're going to unite.
I mean, even if it doesn't fly in on its own, she will go digging for one that's sleeping underground.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what's even better though is that its armor, like we were talking about before, Nursilla armor is,
No, this is
Gundam
definitely
armor.
Gundam armor.
Oh,
This is
oh, yeah.
100%
This is
Gundam
giant.
armor.
Celtis-
Well, no, this isn't
Yeah,
Gundam
Celtis armor is
This
Gundam as all fuck.
It's not even Gundam armor. It's like Mazinger as fuck. It's Devilman armor.
It's pretty cool.
It's right up MJ's alley armor.
Yeah.
100%.
Mine too, because it works so well with Gunlands.
Yeah, no, like it's built for using gun lance and even like regular bowguns too.
No one's said it yet, but it's also very satisfying to fight because you can just constantly break it between its four legs, its head, its body, its tail, and even when you break everything, it still has enough health to keep going for a little bit.
Yeah, this
Oh,
the queen
oh,
is
that
a
thing's
tank.
helpful.
Such a good fight.
Yeah, that thing's health pool is absolutely stupid.
Not to mention just the sheer scale of it. Like, it's once again a Neopteran that's, an actual cool fight.
Give us more.
Mhm.
Give us more.
How
cool
many
Neopterans.
big Neopterans are there really?
That's really the only big one, too.
Yeah,
Celtis,
not many. I'm pretty sure you
Adalcal-
can count them all on one hand.
Autocall isn't even that big. It's bigger
Autocall
because
isn't
of
that big?
its ability.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Autocotl I count in that category because giant robot.
I'm saying it itself does not count.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, there is technically a pair from Monster Hunter Online called Leidenas, but that's besides the point.
I
Like
can.
you have all these things that are like, it's just the perfect combo. Even the Desert Celtis and Celtis Queen, they actually have a nice color scheme. Like both of them have great color schemes that really work together.
In this color scheme, I don't know what the desert one does different from the regular one.
It shoots the ICBM nuke of Celtis.
Yeah. It's the one that has it'll like bury its feet down and then shoot the Celtis towards you. Which, if the Celtis is low enough health, the Celtis just explodes.
I need to see that. I've never actually seen that.
I've actually rarely fought Delta Celtis myself, so I'm not too sure about that one.
I do have to make this observation as well. Considering the fact that Celtis Queen has just a massive health pool, could we consider it the Blissey of the Monster Hunter world?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
Possibly, except unlike Blissey, this thing can hit like a truck.
Yeah.
Also true.
Not only does it have devastating charge combos with its Celtis body, or even just on its own, despite it being a little bit slower, it has these huge water pulses that it can just explode your health bar before you even just realize like what the hell just happened.
Yeah, getting hit.
Not to
with
mention, Celtis can also just pick up the large behemoth and just drop her on you.
It gets
And then the
Also,
fact that
light.
Celtis itself acts like pretty much a turret with additional armaments just to swat at you while just doing its normal thing.
And on
And it was
top of
also
that,
fortuitous that MJ brought up Gurren Lagann earlier because the dual blades you make out of Celtis parts are literally little drills.
not to mention that the hammer is also a rocket drill. But
Yeah,
the best
really
part
cool.
about when the
So
Desert
is the
Celtis Queen
Gunlance, too.
fires the
Like
Celtis,
the Gunland,
it actually explodes like a Vespoid, making it completely uncarvable. Like, she's shooting with so much force that the Celtis disintegrates.
God damn it, bitch! You
Could you
did not make my
imagine?
carves.
Can you imagine a Celtis queen with soft boiled?
Oh
God.
God.
Could you manage Celtis Queen in new gen technology? Give me that.
Yeah, I'd
I
love
want
to
that.
see it because, again, she is like the tank of the Monster Hunter world. And you said that like their hammer is like a drill. A gun lance also is a drill with a freaking hole in the top to basically be like water mining. Yeah.
Sure, that sound was, but
That would be
Fine.
Killian.
I would say
That was
probably
water
Gillian.
mining in action.
I thought it was.
it was water mining.
Yeah.
Well,
He's trying
I-
to go up the slide the wrong way and finding out that it doesn't work.
well, Celtis Queen was a very strong last entry. Apparently, that appealed to everyone, MJ. So
I know I don't think I know a single person that dislikes Celtis Queen and Celtis.
Well, there are some people that are obnoxious, like find the tankiness annoying.
well, they're
those
wrong.
people are weird and dumb.
We're moving. Anyway, we're moving on because again, we only have so much time of the day. Sam, please hit us with your final pick. Make it a strong one.
All right, I'll make it a strong one. All right, because this is even from a game I haven't touched yet. It's one that I want to get into, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Because it's a tragic fight, and I really want to experience it myself. And that would be Sedeus from Monster Hunter Tri.
Oh,
The giant whale with a giant beard and horns that cover its eyes. The cause of the earthquakes in the village nearby, just because it can't see and is trying to be able to get its horns out of the way, just so that ramming it against the rocks underwater. And the fact that what you're meant to do in the fight is just follow it for the first half of the fight to its main layer, and that's where you break the horns. You don't even kill this thing, you just break its horns and you let it go free. Because that's, as a hunter, being part of the ecosystem that brings balance to nature and letting that monster purposefully go is just proof that you're not there to be a killer. You're there to be the hunter. You're there for the environment and nature. You're there to bring balance, and Sedeus thanks you.
Until you go back and kill it.
Until you go back and kill it.
well, thanks for taking the message away.
Because I will say, like going off like what you were saying at the end of there, Monobolos like was one of my honorable picks. Who's kind of like the cautionary tale of what happens when they go too far.
I like it because the game at the end of the day is kind of about environmentalism and about how, like, you know, you gotta need a balance between nature and, you know, sometimes you gotta control that. So you don't have to kill the monsters if they're not dangerous. Where Sedeus or Sedeus, however you actually say it, it doesn't really matter.
I like Sedeus because it's like Zeus or Deus or
I mean, if you look at its armor, it's pretty godlike.
yep.
Point being is you didn't have to kill it. Your character basically acknowledges that. It's kind of what they're going with. And then once
Actually, with the quest, it's not about killing. The whole objective is just repel. You don't get an opportunity to kill it.
And
you just force it away.
I also have not done this, but Sedeus was also one of my choices, and or one of my contenders. And I've seen the final cutscene of the game where after you beat it, and he basically like, in an animal way, waves goodbye. You know, he goes to the surface, tail flips over the surface, and then he swims off. So
He thanks you.
You
Yeah.
just drove it out of like sinking an island.
well, you helped it because it's like it was suffering because it's all because that's a real
I'm not
problem
even
that
sure.
some animals.
I don't think that
have.
was actually the case for it though. But
It was. The horns were physically covering its eyes. It could not see.
Which is a real problem some animals have with certain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, one of the few times Monster Hunter will actually talk about something like that, where that's... I mean, some of the other games probably have some environmentalism messages that I haven't noticed, but that's like probably one of the more obvious ones.
Well, you could say that with Rise and the Quirio outbreak.
I said one of the most obvious ones, okay?
It puts me more in mind of, I forget the exact name of it, but there's a species of pig somewhere in the world where its tusks continue to grow all throughout the male's life, and eventually it will curve up, like start boring into the top of its head, and its tusk will actually grow and like penetrate the thing's brain and kill it if it is not like artificially trimmed by a person.
Yep.
Yeah.
The same thing can happen with a lot of rodent species with their teeth, which is why they have to just always be gnawing at something to just whittle down their own teeth, or otherwise the teeth will just puncture its own maw and actually just break into its own head.
Yeah. Piggy doesn't have that luxury. Like there's nothing it can do to file down the tusk on its own.
I mean, the most it can do is break them off.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not sure if it has the capabilities of doing that, like say maybe an elephant or antlers from a deer or moose could.
That I'm not sure, because I know unlike like a tusk or like a horn, these things actually keep growing.
I definitely think that one last thing. Sorry, I definitely think that with how Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise have done, and how the creators have said that they want to add underwater stuff, it's possible we might see CDS come back.
Please, I would
I
not
would-
mind.
That would
I
be
wouldn't
nice.
be against it, especially when it and Abyssal Chris also happen to share the same battle arena, which is this underwater chamber of a long forgotten ancient civilization that's just been drowned.
I want to.
Yeah.
I
I
love
Yeah, that'd be-
underwater creatures, so I would be really happy. Plus, I've been wanting to fight Global for years.
I want to play that game, even if I hate the swing mechanic, just for those monsters.
I think there's
monsters.
I actually have to like look into it again, but I do believe there was some like stuff with Dolphin where people are trying to like get Monster Hunter try online working, and I think they've made some like breakthroughs.
They did manage to get it online.
Yeah.
If we get that working, Delic, that's on you to research how it works.
I will get to it.
I would like to be a substitute fourth for whenever you need one, because God, I would love to play.
I mean, I might just recruit you just for like the fun of it.
And for grinding
Yeah.
purposes, so you'll always be nearby.
Yep.
That being said, very strong end of the list there. If I could have picked Cedius, I took him off because I just haven't fought him yet. But if I did, he probably would have been my contenders, and you would have sniped me with that pick.
Uh-huh.
So you can feel like you sniped me.
I sniped duck.
Twice, I think.
No,
No, wait a minute, no, just once.
Sam had two sort of three choices of Gormagala that I considered.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I had so many things that I considered that you guys each have at least one thing I considered.
Mhm.
But only two of you sniped things that I kept. That being said, it's my turn to end the list, and I feel like it's so hard to pick a right and a wrong answer. So I'm going to go with the most wrong correct answer in the most dangerous vegetable you can think of. I'm going with the Danger Pickle, the Savage Danger Pickle, Devil Joe.
Oh God.
Yes, Oh, if you want a beast of a monster, that is Savage Devil Joe right there. One that is only aggression. And one that'll fight. He will pick a fight with literally everyone. And the reason... This is one of the few monsters I actually know the ecology of. The reason he's a Savage Devil Joe is because he's committed cannibalism. He's eaten another pickle. So he's
committed
just...
auto cannibalism.
It's... Devil Joe at first, when we first started playing, I was terrified of it ever popping up because of how Delic would describe the thing. It just being a monster
yeah.
of pure destruction, and if you see this, you gotta run. And back in the old Monster Hunter days, you kind of just had to deal with it because if it was in your zone, you could try to get it away, but you just didn't want to be in the same zone as it. Deviljho is, no matter what you do, it doesn't feel like you're winning until it's dead. Where like you cut off its tail, it'll just eat its tail, get some health back, and you get no carves. You use a trap on it, it still attacks you while it's in the trap. Like, what do you do against the thing that is literally too angry to die until it dies? I don't even know what I could say about Deviljho that has been said. It is scary. It's got teeth and fangs and everything all over the place.
It's Zilla, but good.
Well, you want to say that again, Drago?
It's Zilla, but good.
What you mean evil?
That too.
I'm gonna beat the crap out of you.
Not
Also the
Godzilla,
other-
Zilla.
Also, the other monster that almost killed the handler. So nice pick there.
If only it had.
Listen,
Yeah, seriously.
unfortunately,
And
Monster
the
Hunter,
news
we
they-
have never seen any character die in Monster Hunter, and I don't think we ever
Yeah.
will.
Like to go a bit more into like Deviljho itself, they're primarily nomadic in nature because they are just always eating. They are walking extinctions because of this their unending hunger. They're called the World Eater for a reason.
Literally nowhere is safe against these things. They will pop wherever
No.
you go.
Yeah.
It will be.
Yeah,
I remember the
anytime one of
days
these
of
shows up, it is a danger to everything around it.
in the days of 4 Ultimate. I remember Deadlock. You were always very quick when the quest would start off to check which meal skills were activated, and I remember whenever Game Changer was around, you would shit a brick.
Yeah, because you know what that means when that perk shows up. It's like, oh god, we're getting something big and dangerous.
It means there is a chance for something to show up, and there is a chance for that something to be the Angry Pickle, and if the Angry Pickle shows up, you clear the area like there's a plague going on.
For
Especially if
good
you went in
reason.
drunk.
And the fact that there is actually a monster that will call it to its aid, or to its
Yeah.
destruction.
Yeah, because this thing was
Oh,
also
the
introduced.
Kuropeko, yeah.
Yeah, this thing was
Kuropeko.
introduced in Tri, and when you first learn of the Kuropeko, it lures like a Rathian over to you. Like that's fine. You get to high rank, it makes this call like, wait, what is that called? I don't recognize this call. And then this giant behemoth shows up. It's like, oh shit.
I don't know if anyone else appreciates Deviljho as much as I do in this group.
I appreciate it, but this is a monster you have to respect whenever it shows up. Because if
Yeah.
you do not keep it in mind, you're going back to base one way.
That being said, if we carve the tail, we're always going to go for the disrespect. I'm sorry, it's just going to happen.
You're gonna.
Gotta
I mean,
carve
like,
the tail for disrespect.
you kind of have to in the older games, or otherwise you risk not getting the carve in the first place.
I'm just glad that's something a thing I started with the group. I just started carving the tail in the middle of the fights, calling it disrespect. And it just stuck. Deviljho never changed. I was kind of glad it didn't show up in Rise, just because I didn't mind if it showed up in every game. But now that Basil Geese kind of also fits that role, I'm fine with either of them popping up now and then.
We also have Rajang also.
Rajang's a different beast. There's a reason it hasn't shown up on this draft list so far. Unless
That
Chris
thing
pops
is
it out right now.
polarizing.
Funny you should mention, because while the Bonneboro may be Deadlock's god, there is only one monster fit to be called Deadlock's daddy,
Oh,
and
no.
it is not going to feature on my list today.
It had me
Instead,
the first
I
half, not gonna
decided
lie.
after everything that has been said, there is only one monster I can think of that is just so above it all, so utterly and profoundly respectless to render every achievement that you ever make in these game series null and moot and void, and that is Malfestio from Monster Hunter Generations. Now, bear with me. Of the 7 new monsters introduced in Generations, this one stands out for being particularly above it all. The Great Macau was a nice introduction to the game's large monsters. Nakarkos was the big bad Elder Dragon, and the Fated Four are in their own little club of badassery. But the Malfestio, the game's other bird wyvern du jour, is basically like the chicken parmesan at the Great Macau with the Olive Garden breadsticks. Not necessarily as good or memorable, but still pretty damn tasty. The nocturnal bird, as it's also known, the Mal is almost exactly like a horned owl, superficially, standing out as being one of the few bird wyverns that are decidedly more bird than wyvern. And it's mirrored in its avian behaviors. It also gets points for coolness for the glowing red eyes, which, stand out given you fight it predominantly at nighttime. The fight with Mal is, simply put, nothing overly special. There are a lot of monsters in the same game as it that present far more of a challenge. However, Malfestio stands out for one thing it can do that only its Night Cloak counterpart shares with it, and that is the ability to inflict confusion, an annoyingly interesting status effect that inverts your controls, making it so you have to swiftly adapt to mirrored movement, and adapt just as quickly back when the condition runs its course and you're back to normal. It can also fire a beam of hypnotic energy that puts you to sleep, which can be a huge pain if you're absent energy drinks and decided to leave your Palico at home. Malfestio also uses a lot of wide sweeping attacks when it gets up close and personal, giving it plenty of opportunities to exploit the unwitting who have never been subject to its unique status conditions before. I largely overlooked Malfestio's gear, mostly because I'm not the biggest fan of looking like a jester, even a badass one. But once upon a time, the Sin Squad's Sloth Sin, Cadence, made frequent use of the weapons because she really liked using the sleep thing on opponents. However, the thing that makes Malfestio so disrespectful, so again, utterly respectless, is even after you've slain the greatest and fiercest monsters the Generations has to offer and made yourself known to every NPC, faction, and fellow player within your sphere of social influence, Malfestio still has the nerve to stare you down and ask, "Who?"
Nah.
You set it up all for that joke.
Really?
Beautiful.
Yeah, of course you'd be happy about it, Sam. I like Malfestio. It hasn't really got much time to shine because I think it only popped up in the one game, right?
It only popped up in a Generations Ultimate, which is a shame, especially when it had its Night Cloak Deviant, which really got hard to track because it started taking pages out of Chameleos' book.
Mhm.
Yeah, just going full invisible.
And I do find it hilarious, at least in the Japanese version. Its name is Hororo Hororu, which is the onomatopoeia for owl sounds, chloroform, and Koropokoru, a small race of people in Ainu folklore.
Well, the chloroform
Interesting.
kind of makes sense because it does put you to sleep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, no one really has much to say about this one. I think you could have picked this one
It's
earlier.
quite nice.
Chris. Yeah, it's
just
a nice
good
one. I just got.
monster.
No, see, I had to put it last because, again, no. Malfestio looks at all of the monsters that have been posed. Like, look at this beautiful table that future Zach will have constructed for this video. Malfestio looks at all of that. It sees you, the one who has triumphed over all of that, and still it asks, "Who?"
Stop.
Like, this thing has absolutely no shits to give about who you are, what you are. You are just there. This thing is not even going to care about you. It can't care about you.
Also, it's one of the few monsters that directly feeds on Kelby.
Well, gotta respect it for that.
Yeah,
Also, can we give a
Few
shout out
monsters
to that
can-
lone? Can we give a shout out to the lone Kelby? Like maybe give an in memoriam here at the end of the video to the lone Kelby that got bullseyed by the Molten Tigrex's little fireball.
God damn it,
The
not again.
arms of an angel fly away. Not to
Seeing
mention, though, Malfestio's equipment's also quite nice.
It is. I used the sword and shield briefly.
Mm-hmm. I like the armor too because it gives me 1001 Nights kind of vibes.
Honestly, Malfestio is not a monster that I could hate in the slightest. It's just very pretty to look at. Even if I don't enjoy the fight itself, I can't hate the monster.
I don't think the moth is well designed. It's just a big owl.
Yeah.
Which honestly I feel a little guilty about because I love owls.
I mean, Acnosom's just a big ass crane.
Yeah, I don't feel guilty about that one.
But yeah, I feel like the majority of the novelty of the Malfestio fight disappears after you fight it once. Because once you know the confusion status effect, you're kind of like, that's really its only card.
Yeah. I mean, it's an early
Until
game
it gets
monster,
into its
even in
deviant form,
Generations.
and then
so-
you start having other problems to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Because it's bad enough that it's invisible. Try fighting it invisible while you're confused and just having your
you,
controls slip
you
on
can
it, there
adapt
you
to confusion pretty easily. It's when the confusion turns off is when it gets me.
go. Yeah, it's on and
Yeah.
off while it's invisible, and you're trying to keep track of it also.
Yeah, and again,
I
it's
definitely
it's the fact of if you've never experienced it before, it's one of those holy shit kind of fights. But again, like after you've already fought Malfestia once, even going into the Nightcloak, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I know how to deal with this.
Well, while someone may be asking who at the end of this list, I think we did pretty well overall here with what we got going. But real quickly, before we start saying our goodbyes and everything, just go, or let's see what everyone, who would you guys vote for? So just make sure to like to count as a vote. And we will see you guys next time with whatever draft list we do next time. Sam, thank you for joining us. You'll probably see her back here at some point in the future.
Love to be back.
Yes. And hope everyone had fun today.
Later.
Later.
Goodbye.
Bye.